You're unmuted and I'm starting the video. All right, we're ready to go.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock and the meeting is called to order. Before we start the agenda and the approval of minutes, I'd like to introduce some of the new people. We've had some changes. We've got a new Parks Liaison, and we have Buck Tupper here from Public Works that is going to talk about some of those changes first.
Yeah, there's lots of them. Some are still to be determined. Basically, Shauna was in the head of the Parks Department. That is now me. Shauna is still doing recreation. And what that entails is basically, as my understanding is, that I am in charge of all of the maintenance of the parks facilities, the parks fields, all of that stuff. And as far as after school things and things like that, that'll still be Shauna doing that. Got a lot of things on my mind that I want to change in the park. I have a lot of things that are going to take some time, so please be patient with me. I'm fresh meat, so don't attack all at once. We also have Brandon Sunday now as the counselor that is over Parks Department. So stay tuned, things are changing.
Yes, Counselor Doug Morton has retired, and in his place now will be Council Liaison to Parks, Brandon Sundin. So Brandon, do you want to kind of introduce yourself again?
Yeah.
He was vice chair last month.
Familiar with everybody, I think, except for Lauren, so look forward to continue working with you guys and you, Lauren, and see what you're able to contribute to the group. So it's a great group to be a part of, and appreciate you guys and all the work that you do. Thank you.
Let's see here. So the next thing I'm going to do is introduce our new commissioner, which is Lauren Gonzalez. And she was passed through the council on the 4th of January. And I would like her to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about herself, before we start.
Hey everyone, it's really nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to be here and be a member of your team. I'm here mostly because the parks represent a huge part of the community, and I really like how it draws the community together. And also, the trail part of it is also really close to home for me. Being an Indigenous person, I'm really tied to the land and my culture, and I value it very much. And I'm excited to be part of the team that helps preserve that for the rest of the community of St. Helens. I'm also part of the garden club, do a co-op called Wild and Free for homeschoolers. And volunteering and being part of the community is always something that I've tried to do since retiring from the Navy. I'm excited to be part of the community now. We moved here about a year ago, 2 years almost now. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome, thank you. Okay, any other questions for Lauren? Okay, we're gonna go to approval of minutes now. And evidently for October minutes, they didn't record who seconded the minutes. So if you remember who you are, maybe we can, otherwise we're going to have to approve them again.
I don't remember who started.
I don't either. I didn't write that down. So what we're gonna do is reapprove the October and now the December 12th meeting minutes. So make a motion. Review.
Make a motion to, are we gonna approve both of them at the same time or just one and one?
Well, since we don't have those in front of us right now, I think we could do it at the same time.
Well, I have an issue with the last minutes from last.
Okay, so you have a question.
There was, it stated about, I thought that the definition of objective, reasonably objective, was too broad. And that, actually, I was thinking it was, I liked it being broad. I was thinking it was too broad. It was Jacob was on it that was saying about, that was from the perspective of the homeless person, what they found objectionably reasonable. And I was thinking that definition of objectively reasonable would be, would cover everybody who's involved. So that's what I'm saying, it's, it's not too broad, I think it's,
Gotcha.
okay, thanks.
I can change that.
Okay, great. And that was from the December minutes.
Yes.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from October and December.
Second,
And is there any other discussion? All those who approve,
Aye.
raise your hand. Okay. That's all. So the minutes have been approved as changed by Scott. Next is our visitor comments from the floor. You each have 3 minutes. If any of you have any.
Hi, I'm Tina, and I work in the tourism department for the city of St. Helens. And I had the pleasure and opportunity to meet with Lynn a couple of weeks ago regarding just some ideas and so forth. And one of the things that she was telling me was that, the parks don't have signage on them. A lot of them that tell you kind of like, this is that park. And that there was limited funds that were available to like maybe facilitate that or make that happen. And I had been thinking about doing this, and so I just decided to do it. I came up with like this campaign called Park It in St. Helens. And it lists all of the different parks and the activities that happen within the parks. And I thought maybe we could sell some t-shirts to pay for some signage. And I think that there may be signage laying around, like McCormick Park signage maybe, that is made, but like the ends rotted out or something, that we're holding the park signage.
Columbia View one, but I don't know about.
Is it Columbia Review one?
It's about 10 feet wide and.
Yeah. Yeah, so there could be some in the warehouse, like where my stuff is kept, that we can see if there's those signs that may be there, they can be refurbished or something like that. But, I just wanted to see if you had any comments about this idea. Or, if we're missing something that should be on that shirt that isn't, we just took it right off of the city website. So if the city has it listed as a specific name, that's how we listed it.
too small.
And it would be in green, probably not black. I just.
I was gonna say,
Short sleeve.
one should maybe be a little different.
Yeah.
Short sleeve then probably.
Options, yeah. Or
Good.
blue,
I like the black myself.
Sand Island wants blue. No kidding.
You designed this?
I didn't.
Oh, it's really nice.
Thank you. But maybe there's an animal on there that we're missing, or maybe there's another park that's missing. I mean, because not everything is always up to date.
Yeah.
There's a
We
dog
were
on
talking
there.
about that last month. That needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Is there a bike on? Oh, yeah, there's a bike.
We're gonna have to add a graffiti wall in there.
Thanks.
But I don't know what it costs to make, signs for all these parks either versus what's there, what would be, could be reworked, or just maybe it goes away, or.
Most of them have signs now that say what they say, like Sixth Street Field has like two 2x6s run across with two 4x4s, and it'll say Sixth Street Ball Field. And then
Okay,
Campbell Park has one, I know that, Tiny Human has one, I believe most of them do.
okay, so I'm not sure what Lynn was thinking when she was talking about designations within parks, whether it's more than just the signage, maybe maybe there's some floral attributes that go to it to make it look better, it's presentation wise, so it's more welcoming when people come into the park.
It depends on the park, you know, so some parks need, you know, there's one park I can think of that doesn't have any signs. So we need some signs just telling people what it is. But then there's others that want to designate a little bit of history, you know, there. Or maybe something else, so they're all a little different, so we'd have to get all that together and get a list.
Then we would know how many baked cookies we have to sell.
That's right.
Shirts.
That's-
Just like Knoxville's got the brown ones from
I like the place.
in our kiosk.
Yeah. This is a
Handmade
throwaway.
ones.
That's beautiful.
Park.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sign.
But
Did you drop something on the ground there? Not
Mine.
sure what it was.
I was just over there.
That's what I'm looking at.
Excuse me, sorry.
Okay, what is the discussion? How would you like to move forward with that? Or would you, she's gonna need more information though before we actually do something, but I like the idea. I like the shirt.
yeah,
I think the basic idea is good. I think it seems like to me though, there's probably more discussion that would have to be had, because like, what's the objective of, is it, like at McCormick Park, there's a sign when you enter, you know, is on a vehicle, right? You come into the park. So were you thinking of putting stuff on the sign that lets people know what is inside the park? Because then if that's the case, I mean, if you're driving in, you're not gonna really probably pick that information up, but yet a sign like that could be at a spot where cars park or something, you know, where they park and they go to use so I think it seems like there's probably, it's more than just saying, it's probably different per park, and it's probably, the signage maybe is different per park in different situations, and maybe more discussion needs to be had. That's just my twirling around in my head, you know what I'm thinking.
It's gonna be different for every park.
Yeah.
You know, and what they want, you know, what they have.
it could just be beautification. I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking as a fundraiser.
If you're doing restoration too.
Yeah.
We're trying to do some restoration at the Japanese Gardens in McCormick Park.
Or maybe it's a sign not just for the park's name, but like historical facts and cultural facts about that area, the plants that are there, that are really significant to the people who were here previously, before colonization. Yes, historic, to give the park more depth and interest for people who are there too.
Yeah.
To observe nature.
It could be anything you want. I was just thinking.
I like the idea, and I think we're gonna have to have more discussion on that and take inventory.
Then I'll talk about the t-shirts, and Tina, I don't mean to throw water on your idea, but I probably am. I was a member of the Arts and Cultural Commission,
Mhm.
and that's when we raised like $75,000 for the first sculpture over Milton Creek. And one of the things we came up with was t-shirts, and I've got like 3 of them at home. I had 2 of them, and someone just gave me one that had a pile of them. They're really cool t-shirts, by the way. I'll wear one maybe next time. And we sold them here when there was, I can't remember exactly what was going on here, but they had like an arts and cultural fair out here, we sold them. And we just thought it was gonna be a great idea.
Yeah,
And we had, very, very little success doing that.
yeah.
That doesn't mean that we can't give it another try.
Well, I
I
wouldn't
just say
put
we
it on- I
probably
wouldn't
need
put
to
it on you to sell these.
be, I would just think it would be,
Yeah.
kind of maybe start out with a limited amount and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I would put no financial burden whatsoever on parks. Like, this is the exact opposite of that. So, and I think that the environment and the economy has changed here in the last 10 years. We have a lot more people that come into town. We have more plans to have many more people coming into town. They like to pick up a souvenir. This is something that could help, what they just experienced, as well as give them something to take home with them.
It looks like Dana has her hand up. Dana, did you have something?
Yes, first of all, I wanted to give thanks to Tina for being willing to come up with some creative options to help with funding for the parks, especially in places that we really need the funding. In addition to that, I was wondering, you answered a couple of my questions, but is this something that you're looking to kind of create like a fund moving forward that we can pull from project by project as we need to? And are you looking to participate in maybe some other ways also to fundraise beyond just the t-shirt selling?
This would be a fundraiser that I would just write you a check and you go, here, you spend it where you want to. I would not get involved in any other way, because I think it's almost a conflict of interest with tourism, because I'm supposed to be raising money for tourism activities. This isn't exactly tourism, but it is if we cultivate people coming in from out of town to visit the community. So it would just be check writing with you being the recipient and saying, yeah, okay, we understand what you're doing and thank you if you raise 20 cents or if you raise 200 or 2,000 or whatever it is.
Anything's
Is
gonna,
that- Hopefully that, yeah.
that sounds good. So do we want to make this an action item for next month? And we can think about it and discuss it a little bit more and then make a decision.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Tina, I'd like to give you this. Sorry.
Thank you.
That will cultivate more people coming into the city of St. Helens.
Yeah, ecotourism.
Hi.
Yeah, Nick Sorber. I'm Little League president here in town, St. Helens Little League District 1. Been working, I spoke with Buck earlier, and I've been working with Shauna. I'm trying to acquire the McCormick Fields across from the skate park. They're currently softball fields and they're not usable right now. I've been trying to figure out a way that Little League can donate some money, and the fields need dirt and turfus material put on them, and I'd like to do that in exchange for usage of the fields. For how, if we put $5,000 in the fields, just like first right of refusal on the fields like we currently have at 6th and 7th Street, I guess for lack of words. So those are usable. I'd really like to get Little League back in the Parks and Rec right now. We're kind of disenfranchised is the word I'll use. I mean, we're kind of scattered at the Moose Field, and we're down at the Majors Field outside of the fairgrounds there. And the worry is at any point in time, those fields could be revoked, and then Little League would be without fields. So I figured this would be kind of a win-win for parks right now. Those fields currently are only being used by softball from mid-June on, or June-ish. Don't quote me on the exact time there, because they don't drain that well. A lot of it is due to there hasn't been the appropriate dirt put on the fields to be used. We would be looking to purchase the dirt and the correct materials and put them on the fields ourselves and maintain the fields. We would be at no cost to the city or parks at all. And when we would leave, of course, the city parks department would have full reign like they normally would. We're just looking to reserve the fields from X amount of time to X amount of time.
So Buck, did you want to address this?
Sure. Yeah, I did speak with Nick today, and my opinion on it is, I think it's great. I mean, I've played softball in that field for years. The dirt is not the best. It's super hard, super fast, got a lot of clay in it, a lot of rocks in it. The surface that they're talking about bringing in is, if you're familiar with softball fields or baseball fields, correct me if I'm wrong, it's extremely close to what Delta Park has. Delta Park is a league of its own in softball and baseball fields. It's really good stuff. It does drain well. You're still gonna have some issues draining in the grass, but with Little League, you're not going out as far as adults are. The only conflict that we discussed that I believe he might get is a lot of these softball players like to get out, practice and things like that. And if Little League is there, they're gonna kind of butt up to the start of the adult softball league. And it's very rare when people do practice, at least back when I played. So I don't think that's gonna be huge, and I'm sure that you'll work with people. All in all, I think it's great. They're willing to move the bags, because as you know, the little guys have the bags closer than the adults do. They're gonna put the posts in. All you do is cap them, pull the bags, put them where you need them for who's playing. They're really simplifying it, and they're spending the money, so bottom line is that's good for us, because we don't have much money.
Well, my understanding is that the infield of our baseball field is grass, not.
Ours are dirt, we only have one field that's grass.
Yeah, I'm wondering, if you're trying to make it, what do you look at for, the typical?
I mean, if I own the field personally, yeah, grass is great, but it's super hard to maintain, especially for parks, because when you have
Yeah.
public out there stomping them, it's rough. If it's a private field, I mean, turf is the way to go, obviously, I mean, but we're a long ways out from anything like that, I would assume, but just right now, those are our nicest facilities for Little League to use by far, and they're not being utilized at all. And we would love to be able to use those fields. I mean, we could host tournament of champions, districts and stuff down there. It's kind of a big deal for the community, and the parking is really great down there. And we wouldn't expect parks to maintain the field whatsoever, because we're already doing that now. When all the coaches and everything maintain the current fields we have right now. So my kind of vision for that, we would really love to run concessions out of there. We would buy portable mounds and store them when it's done. So when we're out of there, standard procedure could, move forward there with the public out there, so.
So Brandon, do you have any thoughts on this as the parks liaison?
I don't know how all the logistics will work out, but to me, it sounds like a win.
Sure.
I know, Paul, you were talking about, what is there, almost 3 different size fields that the city needs, and you were saying how a while ago that.
I think that was
I
Jacob.
think Jacob.
I don't know much about Jacob. Oh, okay, that's right, you're right. Jacob Wood was talking about how we didn't have fields to do it. So my question is, how different are all these fields? Are we just talking a few feet? Are we talking about 20, 30 feet? How do you start getting into now? We're starting to talk about 2 groups trying to have the same field and they would interchange. And that's confusing to me, because I've been told that we have like 3 or 4 different size fields that are needed for people that want to have a ball around. It's simple.
It's base length is what it is. So what we would do, and the base posts are cheap, they're like $9 a piece. If you put 2 sets of posts in, it would accommodate Little League and softball. Most of the fields you go to at Delta Park, and they just put plugs in them. And if you have a movable mound, which we're gonna purchase, it accommodates everyone. So the fields are multi-purpose, softball can come in afterwards. You don't have, because they're pitching, they don't have a mound when you're playing softball.
What are the distances?
46 feet for majors and minors, and don't quote me on what slow pitch softball would be.
60 feet.
It's a 60. It's a flat mound.
How about to the base? First base.
It's 60 feet, I believe.
60 feet.
And for some reason, it's there's like I think it's a 10-foot difference for some. I'd have to look it up. I don't know.
It's just for Howard, because I mean,
I don't.
The geography of everything is the same. All you're doing is moving it closer to home plate. And you don't have to alter the shape of your infield. It's just that these kids will be standing in a little bit closer. And if you have a nicely groomed field, it's perfect for them. Your outfield fence, you can put a temporary fence up and
I wish Jacob was here.
it's really not that bad, and almost all parks do it. And remember that our ball fields are not designed for adult hardball. That's where you get into some changes in mound heights, things like that. And those fence lines couldn't handle it. We'd be hitting all kinds of things. They're not designed
That's
for.
what Jacob was talking about was.
it's a 90-foot distance from home plate to first base and between the plates.
Well, that sounds good to me. Do you wanna?
I'd actually like to see something in writing myself, you know.
I'm kind of curious, how much of this material's got to go down?
So I wanted to come down here and talk to you guys before we got carried away with that. I had Valley Athletics is the one that supplies all this stuff, gentleman named Chris Rounds. I'd like him to come out. He did it on Google Earth. He did a survey of the field. Before we got crazy on, I want him to come out and tell us exactly what that field needs. It's definitely gonna need actual field dirt put down and then turfus put over it. Turfus is a lot more money than just the field dirt. And he'll come out and do that, and he would tell us what's going on there. I'm thinking it's probably, this is a rough guesstimate, of course, it's gonna be about $5,000 a field, we're guessing, to make it to where it's gonna cover it.
Each field, okay, yeah, that sounds a little more, I was thinking 5,000 for both of those, seems pretty cheap.
It's a guess. I mean, he could come out and say,
I had them come out a few years ago, it was about $7,500 per field.
right, so, but I just spoke with him and he was saying you're better off. Again, I told, he looked at it on Google Earth, I told him what was going on and I'm like, hey, will you come out here and look at this? He's like, absolutely, so. And another cost would be trucking, we would
I think
pay
that's
for the trucking too, and right now, the bet, so there's a couple things going on here. Right now, it's obviously terrible weather out, so it's gonna have to be put on there by hand. So I have people on the board and stuff, there's gonna be a lot of wheelbarrowing going on there. So to cover that and spread it, because you can't run any equipment on that field right now whatsoever, because it's a lake. I'm sure you'll have to comment on that or Shauna, I mean, it's, so even if this wasn't something that got these fields playable this year, we'd be willing to do it for years moving forward. Because we'd really like to be in that facility, because we're just kind of we're not out of options, but we're trying to kind of rejuvenate Little League a little bit, and right now it is pretty disenfranchised.
I'm just kind of interested in what like the material is, because if it's, I mean, water's gotta go somewhere, so regardless of what material you put on there, if it's flat, it's flat, it's gonna sit there.
I was wondering about drainage also.
But anyways, that's not really probably for our group, that's more for the engineering and they can.
I know when they
figure that
did the high school baseball field back in 1980 there, myself and another person, we told the school district, this is not gonna work. And it's because they didn't put in proper drainage, and sure enough, they eventually had to redo it.
It's not, you're still gonna have rainouts, there's no doubt
Oh,
about it.
yeah, I mean, there's a difference between rainouts and a continual swamp.
Right.
That's what it is right now.
I do like these ideas that he's
Yeah, I
got.
think it sounds good.
The only one that I would have to say is that I wish I could remember how many years ago, didn't we have the girls softball league or somebody come in here and they were wanting compensation for their work, and we had a policy, so I just want to make sure whatever we said then would carry through, that it's equal for everybody, and I just don't remember exactly what we said back then in that, but we had a lot of discussions on it. People should be able to have complete use of a park, and
I think maybe they were wanting
they
exclusive.
get out of
They
paying
were
the
wanting
fee.
exclusive use or something.
Yeah, I just don't remember what it was, but we had quite a few discussions on that.
So with that, for volunteer time, it's 50% of your user fee gets
Okay.
deducted hour for hour.
Okay.
With what Nick's talking about, bringing in materials like that,
Okay,
that might be a different ask, but probably something he'd come back to ask.
I just want to make sure that we're fair and treating all the same. I just don't know what the policy was.
Yeah, and then they just reserve each season for
Okay.
the time that they need. They just don't automatically get exclusive use
Okay.
anymore, because that's what. But I don't see many conflicts with Little League and adult
Okay, play
softball.
ball. It's great.
Yeah, so I mean, to comment on, to go back to the field issues, I understand what you're saying about just, you can't just throw dirt at something. That particular field, and I just drove by it today and looked at it again, it's this deep between the grass and it's never had dirt put on it, so now, I'm sure it could very well use some draining. It could have some issues with draining. I'm not positive. I didn't design the field or anything, but like that's a whole nother, I mean, if you're gonna talk about ripping the whole field up, you're talking to put, it's gonna be $100,000 to do each field, and you know, maybe that's a whole nother there, so.
Building up the height of the infield to
Yeah.
the grass level
Right.
is definitely gonna help, because everything is compacted down, so now your infield is way lower than the grass, so you have a natural pole there.
Right.
So that'll help a lot.
100%, you're gonna have rainouts within Oregon. I mean, if this is Arizona or Texas, we'd be playing ball year round, but it's not, so.
Mhm.
So I mean, I guess that's what we're, about the discounted rate or I don't, I guess. What I'm getting at is if we put $5,000 into the field, let's say it's, 5,000 a field or whatever, and we do one this year and one next year. Would Parks be willing to let us reserve the field in that time gap? And I don't know what the fees are. Could the fees be deducted out? Let's say we put $5,000 in the field, we'll provide the labor, we'll take care of the fields. Is that something Parks would be interested in moving forward and just saying, hey, we would get usage of the field up to the amount we put in for it. And then I viewed it as a win-win for Parks because it's an unusable field, and if we're maintaining it, then it's attractive to other people at that point, whatever the days may be or whatever. So that's I guess my ask for it.
I think that's unreasonable myself.
Yeah, I
It sounds like you need to talk to Shauna, because if you had a formula you were just
Well,
talking
there
about.
is a formula, but I think anything above and beyond that would be something that Brandon would just take to the council to see if that's, because I know there's things that are kind of outside of that box too. With softball, it was because they were doing, labor, they weren't necessarily putting things on the field, the thing, so.
I think it sounds like a good idea, and I think maybe with more information, something written up that Buck can use and Brandon, to move this forward with more information for the city council, but the idea sounds good, I think. What about the rest of you?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do that then. So you can go ahead and submit that to Public Works and Brandon and go from there.
get it to you then, Sean, and that could be.
I can forward it, yeah.
Awesome. All right, does anybody have any questions for me before I take off?
Nice to see you again.
What's your name again, please?
Nick Sorber.
Nick Sorber?
Sorber.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next item, number 2 for new business is the reappointment of Commissioner Jacob Woodruff. Now, Jacob has been with us for 8 years. He's had 2 terms on the commission. And under the rules, after that time, you either have to re-interview for that position, or the interview panel and commission can reappoint him. So the interview panel was Scott Jacobson, Jerry Belcher, and myself when we interviewed for the commissioner position. And we also unanimously voted for Jacob to be reappointed to the commission. Now what we're doing is creating a vote for all of you to approve what we thought would be a really good idea.
Make a motion- What?
Do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve, reappoint Jacob Woodruff to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. The motion is approved.
where's Jacob?
Jacob had work tonight.
There's a spot right there.
Okay,
Oh, you're in a spot, Scott. Move over it.
so let me- All right, so Urban Trail, Commissioner Belcher,
All right.
I will rename commission.
pardon me?
Oh, okay, excuse me. Forget everything I said.
So I've been gone for a while, been doing some volunteer work out of state, so I've missed some, and I talked to Lynn when we were the subcommittee was meeting for approval of new commissioners. And I says, well, was there a budget ever made for the urban trail? And Lynn says, no. She says, we need one. I said, yeah, I think we do need one. And that budget can either be a minimal budget or a maximal budget. So so when I get through talking here, I'll try to make it relatively briefly, is that I'm going to ask, for the commission to ask the city council to ask the city to put a budget together. Buck, that would probably be your job, I have a feeling. And I'd be glad to, work with you. I've talked to Mohammed numerous times. So, the purpose of the urban trail, I was Tina with the laugh, was to, one of the things she said, cultivate people to come to the area of St. Helens. And, that's one thing. And another thing too, is we used to be called, and I think we are, maybe I didn't hear it formally, but eventually we're going to be back to the Parks and Trails Commission. Is that right, Lynn?
That's down.
Eventually, okay,
That's right.
that's gonna
down.
happen.
That's right.
That's gonna happen. And, we have numerous trails in St. Helens through our parks, but there's no trail that connects all of our parks together. And three and a half years ago, we started working on this. And I know there's some issues, and I'll talk about the implementation of it. So developing a budget. So there are some issues there. So one, if we have a budget, the city can plan, how much they want to spend on the vertical post markers and the horizontal.
Can I say something too?
Huh?
Okay, so when we were talking, we know that we cannot start at the beginning, which is down on the waterfront, and go that direction. So what we were discussing is starting backwards and starting in the upper portion, like Gray Cliffs, going down to 4th Street and that direction. So we're out of the way of the contractors at the where all the building is taking place. So that's what we're going to be talking about now, is creating something that we can get started with in that last section, which would be Great Cliffs, walking down the stairs to the Strand, and getting an idea how much it would cost for even some striping or some something that denoted that that was part of the urban trail, and signs. And I know that Mohammed has already sent us a very detailed description in June on what he thought we could start with, what we didn't need. I mean, it was very thorough. And so that's what we're trying to do now, is go back to that area, get just a little idea of what we could start with.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
I would, I'd really like to finish what I was,
I'll comment
I kind of like to finish, what I was going to say. I was going to say what Lynn said, but that was later on in my in my presentation. So one reason we need a budget is so the city knows how much they can spend. And there's a lot of factors, what I'm going to say, is going to affect that. One is, what's going to happen to the Cliff Trail. The big issue we have, Buck, since you're probably going to be in charge of this, you and Brandon, is the Wyeth Street Cliff. The trail goes along Wyeth Street there. And so we've had numerous discussions on that. So the people that live in that area, at least some of the people, one of the things we recommended was a low, non-intrusive safety barrier. And what we talked about was two things. Lynn talked about having a chain, and someone else might have been Lynn brought that up idea too, is to have, like black cable, but low and intrusive. So when the trail was 3.5 years ago, when we first started on, we were going to, if you can visualize this, when you come out of Godfrey Park, there's a little trail that empties out on 2nd Street there. So originally we were going to come up to the corner of 2nd Street and Y Street, and then go down Wyeth Street where the barrier is there now. Then cross the street, 1st Street, with a crosswalk then go down to the top of the trail and go back across. So that would keep the people away from the Wyatt Street cliff. Because in the past, I understand there's 3 people that are falling over it. We're lucky that one person didn't get killed when they come over. So that does, so we need to, that needs to be taken in consideration when the budget is made. Where is the trail gonna go? So the city, you, Mohammed, really need to know. My feeling is I'd like to see the trail, cross the street at First Street, go down Wyatt Street and then cross again at the top of the trail, keeping people away. One of the things we did talk about, Lauren, and this is just because you mentioned it, was we talked about having a viewpoint at the top there, with, talking about, Native Americans and other things there. Is the budget gonna be?
Which side of the street are you talking about?
I guess I call it the North Street. Oh, where the viewpoint is?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the
Trail?
designated trail. Is it by the house?
I'll say the south, it's kind of the south side. I'd say the south side of Wyatt Street is where the cliff is.
Okay.
The north side is the sidewalk area.
Mhm.
So
Is the sidewalk there you're proposing?
there is some sidewalk there, but we might have to have a pedestrian trail like we've talked about on Parkway Street. Buck, you haven't been here, but we've been talking about this for 3 years or 4 years. So we've talked about having like a bicycle trail, and cities have those, where there's 2 lines and then the path and then another line. And people don't park in Parkway Street. I used to be an avid walker. I just, I'm getting older and I don't walk like I used to, but I've been down that street hundreds, if not thousands of times. So that would kind of be what we propose if over there. So you guys, is it gonna be a minimum budget or a maximum? We're talking about the overlooks. We're probably not gonna budget for those yet. They can come anyway. Okay, let's just go. Okay. So yes, the city has to decide where the trail's gonna go. And we gotta take in consideration what the people in the community want and what the city thinks they want. I know, putting words in Lynn's mouth, I know Lynn and Mohammed think that there should be a low, non-intrusive safety barrier there. And I know Scott feels that it's not necessary, and I think we should go across the other side of the street. So someone's got to make a decision on, what's going to take place there, which is best for everyone.
And we mentioned black because when it's black, your eye tends to see through it. So,
Just a quick point on that. If you had the trail on the house side of the bluff, that's gonna impact people's parking then too. 'Cause
Yeah, it could be moved. There's gonna be some issues there
I
too.
think most people wanna walk by that grass area at the edge of the cliff is where they wanna walk because that's where the view is.
We're trying to keep them from falling off there.
I think if we put the trail next to Wyatt Street Cliff without a safety barrier, I think the city has liability. So either if it's gonna go there, there should be a low, non-intrusive safety barrier. And if it's not gonna go there, then he's going the other side. Nothing is always perfect. There is a sidewalk part of the way through there. Okay, volunteer labor. I know that Howard Blumenthal and Scott Jacobson and myself, we said that, and probably Lynn, I didn't write you down, Lynn, but is that, if we would be willing to put in the vertical post markers, if Mohammed or you said, we've got a list of a list of where we thought everything should go. We got a map of where it shows we think them. I know that I was told that Mohammed thinks that maybe there's too many of them. But
A lot of money.
well, the vertical post markers, yeah. And well, it depends on how they are, yeah, but we would be willing to put them in if you told us where they go. I'm pretty good at sitting things and made lots of fences in my life. I can put a post in straight. And, as far as the horizontal markers on the sidewalks and streets, if we had a template, we had an idea that we kind of wanted it to look like that, so it's kind of our icon of our city, and you can see that from a lot of portion of the trail. We could paint that, So you take that into consideration, there'd be some late work. I guess, Scott, you guys didn't object to what I said, so I guess that's still a go.
Yeah.
Okay, implementation, and Lynn is really big on this. We talked last week about it. And what Lynn thinks we should do is, we should work backwards. And she talked about that. We have the trail ended right in front of the old courthouse, basically. It starts down by Seaman the dog. And it ends there. And Lynn thinks that we should work backwards, for now. I do know, I've talked to John Walsh, and I know that the waterfront development project phase 1, people can't go down through there. But one of the things I'm concerned about is that when phase 1 is completed, I would like to see the trail put in, because we've been waiting we've been working on this for 3 years. I don't know when phase 2 is going to go. When phase 2 goes in, maybe the part of the trail would have to be shut down again, the part that goes along the river walk, and if the river walk gets designed like, if you looked at that, it's fantastic. It's going to be as nice as Vancouver. So with that said, I would like to see a motion made that, the city develop a budget and maybe, Buck and Mohammed and the city commission could decide, what's going to happen up there on Wise Street Cliff, so that can be done safely. And it can be done safely, whether we put in a low non-intrusive safety barrier or we put it on the other side of the street. I mean, both, but if we have a safety barrier, it's going to cost relatively more money than if we, move it to the other side of the street. And it could be on the other side of the street now, and maybe in 10 years, it moves somewhere else. I'm done.
You ready? All right, well, I have quite a few comments on this, but I'll try to keep it quick. So you want to work backwards. I get all that. My concern is, are you positive that when you work backwards and you have other projects that are going on like phase 1 and phase 2, that all your dots are going to connect when it's time to snap it all together, that you're not going to go, whoa, we didn't think about that, or they changed something? And I get you don't have a crystal ball, but if things change with those projects, you have that in mind, that if you're doing it in segments, that snake's gonna have to all go to one piece at one time and hopefully smooth. So that's a concern. The cost of the signs, depending on how you want these signs installed, and you say that volunteers will help, that's great. Are these going to be rules for signs? They have to have certain ways. We put all of our signs in what's called a E-lock. So if it gets hit by a car, we pull it out, put a new one in.
Okay,
I'm talking about the anchoring system.
I gotcha.
Poles are expensive, like our street sign poles are around $80 a pole. Then you got the cost of the V-lock. My other concerns with signs are, as you guys all know, ADA for its sidewalks. We have rules and regulations on that. I know I'm rambling. You talk about the cliff. You say a low, not something to ruin the view. Do we know what the number of homes is there? Because I know homeowners really along those edges, they like their view. They don't want that altered. And also, I'm sure there's regulations on the height that you can go. We can't put a 2-foot fence that someone's just gonna flop. It's gotta be, there's rules for these things. So you might not be able to go real low. I get what you're trying to do. I don't know if you've looked into those rules.
No.
At least 42
also,
inches.
You say that if we put the trail along the cliff without a fence or something to prevent falling, that we could put the city at risk.
Well, I'm not an attorney.
That's where I'm going. Does anybody talk to Mr. Iverson, who is our insurance guy, or CIS, and see what the liabilities could be with that? Because he's a very knowledgeable man who could help with that, I'm pretty sure.
I'd say the liability is the same, it's just the exposure is greater. More people going on.
That's something I don't know, and I would go with somebody that's smarter than me in that, just so the city's not sticking their neck out. And it could be as simple as just calling Chris and saying, hey, this is what we got, and he'll boom, give you the answer. A very resourceful guy. That's what I have for right now.
I was always worried that a car could drive off of there to be too full. I'm concerned about a car going over the people.
A car,
did go over.
Yeah, that's it.
The car did go over.
We like you say, we have to check our, dot the i's and everything else to see.
So Buck, I want to comment on what I call the vertical post markers.
Okay.
So, if you're in, say, Sacagawea Park up in Longview, you walk along the trail there, they have vertical post markers there. And I think theirs are just 4x4s with a vertical cut in the top, at an angle with 1.1 milers, or they might, I think, in fact, they might even have them in cement on the ground, where they actually put them in the ground. So I think there are ways around it that's not gonna cost $80 per post.
Is that within the confines of a park, or is that?
Yeah, it's in the confines of a park.
So that might be the issue.
In the confines of a park, there's no cars.
Sidewalk, you're gonna have a whole different
Yeah,
ballgame of rules,
vehicles.
because you've got traffic, you've got ADA stuff, you've got.
Well, so back, okay.
I'm not saying it.
Oh, no. I'm just making clarification. I'm not here to argue. I'm just making clarification. So you can look on here where the vertical post markers are. The ones that are along the Riverwalk, there will not be any cars along there, I assume, where the Riverwalk is. And as we go through Nob Hill Park, there's some. And there won't be cars going through Nob Hill Park. Now, granted, Plymouth Street may have to be widened some there. And when that happens, there'll be a crosswalk across down there, at the base of up there. Then once you get over through Nob Hill Park, then you start going down Parkway Street, and those are all, there's what we call the urban, the pedestrian trail there, and these are all painted. Now, when you get down here, we did have some markers here, but we could probably do with vertical. So anyway, you and Mohammed can look at this, and almost all of these where the blue marks are, so blue, 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 all of those are in a park. This blue one is not in a park, but it's on a corner, right by a telephone post. So yeah, someone runs into it, but we could probably do with the vertical.
There's ways you could save money, I'm
Yeah.
getting that.
And so this is also this is a vertical post marker. This is all on 4th Street. And these are all painted. And then when you go through Godfrey Park, we have 2 in it that, cars aren't going to be going by. Yes, there is one up here at the corner, but if we will need to put a crosswalk across there, there should probably be a crosswalk put across there, and it could be painted and it wouldn't have to be there. So the point I'm trying to make is, I know that Mohammed said that we don't need all these vertical post markers, and the ones that are existing, almost all of them are inside a park. So I just wanted to clarify that, but
And I get all that, and also the way my brain works, that's also one more sign that my lawnmower's gotta go around, and I gotta weed eat around, and then I gotta do this.
no.
All that stuff.
What sign are you talking about?
That's for later in life, we haven't even started on it, so.
The vertical post, the horizontal painted ones will be just a template where we.
Yeah, I'm talking about you put a post in the ground.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's gonna.
That's time intensive for my crew, and I only got 3 guys, and I'm trying to streamline
Oh,
it.
no. But I think even the ones that are in the park could be streamlined, because I know John Walsh, he's made a couple comments to me where he says a lot of this, once it gets laid out, is pretty intuitive.
It might be helpful for me to send out what Mohammed had already marked down. He already went over the whole trail. And I think it would help for us to look at that too. It was sent on June 8th, but I'm gonna just resend it, forward it to everybody so that you have all that information.
I think Dana has her hand raised.
Yeah, and Dana has her hand up. She has a question.
So
Jerry.
I was wondering if we have taken the assessment into consideration from Mohammed, and have we created a smaller action plan with some high priority things that we can implement within, like, say, the 2023 year. That way we can have a very specific ask when we start going to city council. And that budget may, change each year, but we understand that there's a lot that needs to happen to make it come to full fruition, but we also all agree, I think from our conversations previously, that we can do a couple little things here and there. So do we have that smaller specific action items that we'd like to ask for? It'd be really easy for me to cut out a template and go out and spray paint, along the trail and get our markers on the ground. But, what are we focusing on first and foremost?
I always wondered about that, if we wouldn't have plan A and plan B of this, where we got our dream plan with all these markers, and then the one that would just be the bare bones minimum to get the trail open. And then it could be improved upon over time.
Are you talking about maybe doing like 1 mile markers and then breaking it down to quarter mile? Sort of like.
Yeah, we have mile markers also.
Because a lot of the ones, if you're on a street or a sidewalk, you can just paint it. The only place you really need to have a vertical marker is when you get like in an uphill or something, you can't paint the ground. And that would become the only time, and depending upon what park it was, it would depend upon, like, some of it was just natural area. There's a part where weed eating that would ever take place around a post.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Depending upon their placement. So.
If you're gonna do it in segments, you gotta make sure you're not running somebody to a dead end, like those. We want somebody to go here, stop, and there's nothing there.
Because luckily, most of what we're talking about on the waterfront, everything calls for a waterfront trail. There will always be a waterfront fight tooth and nail on this one, from this end to the other end. The only place it gets a little vague that it could vary in is how you would go up to Nob Hill and up through the street right away and get into that area. That could vary occasionally, depending upon what's going on.
Well, when I initially started this, when Lynn and I were talking about this, and she says, "Do you want anything?" I would like to see the city, propose a minimum budget, for the trail. And I says the implementation, we can't do it now because of the first phase of the waterfront development project. But when it's over with, the point I made before is I would like to see the trail implemented and not put on hold until the second phase is done, because the second phase might not be done for 5 or 6 years. There's no reason that the trail, this is a pretty simple trail. The thing we're really debating about on this thing is, one, the vertical post markers, the cost of those, that's a cost. Maybe a kiosk, because we should probably have a kiosk, but that's pretty simple. And the other thing is, what are we gonna do, along the Wyatt Street cliff? That's, those problems. And this is not I'll be quite honest, I just don't see this as a real difficult thing. I understand the concerns, but the trail it's there now. It's basically, we just need to pretty much mark it, is what needs to happen. I've walked the trail times with almost everyone in this room.
And we also talked about getting QR codes, so that when you come to some marker to have a QR code, so you're gonna get the whole trail, so you're gonna know where you're going. But as far as taking a section, let's narrow it down more and see what we can do in that area, the going backwards. And then come back with a better plan that we can explain to you, better, and okay, we found out this area needs ADA accessible. This area needs this, what you were just talking about. So I think the subcommittee should meet again and narrow that down even further so we can get a start on that.
And if you're gonna use a QR code type of method, that might be a way to, everybody's got a smartphone nowadays, as we all know. That might be a way to limit view of your signs and save some money, because everyone can look at a phone and follow the line. If they put a line there, it's just like GPS in your car, you just follow it. That might be a way to simplify some things, but yeah, like Jerry said, I don't think it's extreme rocket science to do it. There's just gotta be a little thought put in, and evidently you guys been working on it, I mean,
And we could have a
getting
map.
closer, I hope.
At Dalton Lake, the preserve there, we've got a QR code on the map. So no matter which map they go to, they know what the trail is.
Have you had any feedback on that?
No, not yet. Maybe it's been helpful.
Got a QR code on the one at Nottaville too, right?
Yeah, I like it. So,
Looks like Dana has her hand up.
yeah, she's got her hand up. Dana?
Yes, and so I guess I would just like to comment again that I would really love to see even just a little action plan on what next steps you guys would like to do to get the park or to get the trail functional for the public to utilize. And so creating a virtual map that can be edited is super easy. Getting that QR code we can put on the kiosks that already exist in the parks we're utilizing, super easy. Getting some of the trails with the painted markers on the floor, super cheap and easy, especially areas that we know we're not going to change. And on that virtual map with the QR code, you can have areas that are, temporarily out of order while we're doing construction, things like that, so that the people who are using the trails know that will be part of the trail, even if it's not accessible at the moment. But I'd really love to see, even 2 or 3 specific items like, okay, this year we want to implement X, Y, and Z. That way we can get it going.
Can I say something real quick?
Subcommittee.
Danny, I really like your ideas a lot, so I think we've talked about this way too much today. So we have the next meeting. I really like Dana's idea of maybe doing the vertical, markers, the QR code and that sort of thing. And so maybe we can meet again. And Dana, I'd really like for you to be at that meeting.
Yes, please email me and let me know.
Okay. So I'll hold off on the budget. I wanted to see you to make a budget. So we'll try to refine this a little more, Buck. And I think we can do some real simple things to get this implemented.
Let's get it started.
And at least get it started with a little modern technology.
You already walked it, you just gotta make sure.
I walked it many times. I walked it with Mohammed. If I would have known you were gonna be doing this, I'd have probably tried to get you to walk it too, so. Okay.
So the next item is Jerry, he's gonna talk about standardizing kiosks in the parks.
This was really Lynn's idea, not mine. So she says, what do you think, Jerry, about the botanical gardens? And I says, I just kind of like to leave it kind of natural like it is, but I says, we do need a kiosk there. And she says, well, what kind of kiosk? It's just a simple one like, we have there. And so Lynn's, words in Lynn's mouth, she says, hey, I know I'm gonna try to get some partners that'll build it. It's just a matter of getting the wood, because Dahlgren's wood don't, if Chris was still alive, they'd probably still donate the wood and we could get that done. So like I'll just talk about the botanical gardens. So it would be nice to have a kiosk there so people know that that's that. And on it, one, there should be a map of the trails, because there's lots of trails in there. And I've got maps of those already done. that I'd be glad to share with that. And 2, another thing that should be done is there's just a lot of poison oak in there. And so we should have a disclosure about, hey, the poison oak, you need to know what it looks like. It's there because it's great habitat for the birds and they like to eat the seeds. And, we're cleaning it off along the trails, but if you get off the trails, you might get poison oak. And then the other thing is, I know Brandon at one time we talked about the history of the quarries, and we could have a little, Brandon could do that, or his group could, so I'd like to see 3 things on there, a map of the trail, people won't get poison oak, and maybe a little history of it. And Lynn thinks that all the parks kiosks should be pretty much the same.
Well, I said that because when I went and was presenting the proposal for the Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, the city council seemed to like that idea. And I took it from Knob Hill Park. And I thought, that's great. You can use both sides if you want. And it's good, the height and width are good enough for a variety of signs. and information and history. And so since well, a third one will be in Dalton pretty soon in this spring. And you have two of them, I think?
Just one.
Just one. And so if it's a good model and it has a cover, you know, and I think if we're gonna do that, you know, you could scale it down if you've got a small entrance like Botanical Gardens, you know, you could not have it that tall.
You have not have a
Shorter, but-
backside?
Yeah, well, you can.
Yeah,
have
plywood at either side.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter, yeah. So, but you could shorten it if you wanted to because of the way the trail goes, but you know, whatever works for,
Yeah, I think they look nice, they're attractive.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
think
are.
it's
It's a
attractive.
good design, the one that I've seen, so, yeah.
So Lynn, what do you want? What would you like said done here? To close, you know, did you want to make a, that we try to have a standard form or?
I think we would probably have to take that to city council to get approved, the standardized kiosk for the parks.
Make a motion that.
Yes, we should probably do that. Are there any comments
I
first
have
before we do something like that?
Has anybody mentioned, did Dahlgren's donate money to have some of those built before? Has anybody
Dahlgren's.
approached them currently?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Just curious, because if you can get donations from people, I got a guy that can build those, I guarantee.
Okay,
Roger,
be
Roger
great.
could build those in a day.
Because I think Roger was the one that built the one.
Yes.
That was a grant.
I don't know, I know that the ex-fireman built a couple of them, because we picked them up from their house, the ones at Dalton Lake, I believe.
That's Ron. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he
I think the first one was Roger possibly.
was it. Yeah, but that's not gonna be a problem for Roger to build those. If you can get materials, then I got a guy that did the building.
Dahlgren was very generous and I approached him about donating the first one. And he listened to the idea of what we were doing with the area and that it became a preserve. And he was really vested. He said, come back anytime you need another one. So he donated all the materials. 2 weeks before he passed away, now I didn't know how ill he was. I went and asked for that and I worked with Lakin there. And she apologized for, you know, it was a couple weeks before she could get back to me. And she says, yes, we can go ahead and do that. He just that he wasn't feeling too well. So the week after that, the materials were delivered. So I really appreciated that. I mean, that was the third load of materials that he had provided for that kiosk. And it's gonna be a historical kiosk. So I'll try and I will try again and talk to Lakin and see if they can do that. You know, we also down there want to have a bird blind. So I don't know, we're gonna have to come up with something, but I'll talk about that later.
T-shirts.
T-shirts, no, I got some other things. So anyway, so I think we should have a motion.
Make a motion.
To move that
we should
forward.
Standardize our kiosks shape to the basic shape they are now. Could vary in size depending upon the
Variance,
space.
height, cover,
you
yeah.
know. But the basic shape that all of our kiosks should be the same shape and materials.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, did you hear who second? Okay, great. So all those approve, raise your hand, please. Dana?
Yep.
Okay, great. So is all approved and will be moved forward to council. All right. Okay, so number 5 is renaming of the commission. Because Recreation and Parks has split as of December 21st in the council meeting. And so we've been Parks and Recreation for the last year and a half. And when I started, we were Parks and Trails Commission. And that made sense to me because that's what we do. And it's everywhere in our municipal code. It was in our bylaws until it was changed, you know, to the other name. So I would like a discussion on changing the name to Parks and Trails Commission. So,
It sounds good. I can say it fast.
I guess about the only way you can, trails, I guess, is bike
That's
lanes
bikes,
and
pedestrian,
sidewalks
everything,
and
yeah.
any trails in the park, so it kind of covers everything, right?
It's all go under the heading of Parks Commission.
I think it should say trail.
I think it should say trails too, because we've got a lot of trails. The urban trail, we're gonna be having more trails come on board later. So,
I hope too that that still would always, our bylaws would include that we look after open spaces. and,
oh yeah,
uh,
it's pretty much the same wording, except for parks and trails.
Yeah, I like
Jerry.
parks and trails better.
Oh, well, you know how I feel.
Talk about it.
Oh, yeah, you know, the question I had was, you know, what's our gonna be relationship with recreation? Will they come when they wanna talk about using the parks? Or,
That sounds like it's all to be decided or talked about yet.
A little gray.
yeah, I think, you know, like I said, when I came on board, we were the parks and trails, and eventually we became, you know, recreation, but really, you know, Shauna made most of the, you know, there. I personally think, you know, that recreation should have their commission, you know, that, you know, worked with Shauna, is what I think. So I think, yes, there should be a separation, and then there should be a new commission made for recreation people that are real concerned about that. And I'm sure there's numerous people that would like to do that.
So do you like the wording Parks and Trails Commission again? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yes. Dana?
I think it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and make a motion and take a vote on this
Make a motion to change the name of Parks and Rec to Parks and Trails.
commission.
I second that.
All right, and it was seconded
By,
by Paul.
thank you.
All those in favor, hold up their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Dana?
Aye. Yep.
Okay. All right, no opposition. So our new name will be
I
Park.
believe, Lynn, this might have to go to the city council.
Yes, that's why I'm
I
taking.
saw this on the agenda the other day. I mentioned it in one of our meetings, and they said since it's named Parks and Rec in the municipal code,
Exactly,
it needs to be approved, so we can move it up the ladder.
exactly, yes. So it will be moved up to city council, and because they're gonna have to change the name on the new bylaws we just passed. And we kept the old name because, you know, we didn't know what was gonna happen a month later, so anyway, so that'll all have to be changed. You know, everything that they have concerning the Parks and Trails Commission. So. Right, all right. So the next item is nominate or volunteer to be a chair or vice chair in 2023 on this commission. So we can nominate, and I'll write the names down. And when we vote, you can either vote with your hand, or if you want to be more private about it, I've made these little pieces of paper that say chair and vice chair, and you can write them on that, and we'll take a tally.
I nominate Lynn for chair.
Pardon me?
You want to be chair again?
Well, let's let somebody else come forward if they want to, because it's always nice to have somebody different the next year, so they get the experience and want to take the time to do that, but
Yeah,
I
my feeling,
will if there's nobody that comes forward.
yeah, if no one comes forward, I would go for Lynn, and I've talked to Lynn about this, so she knows how I feel about this already. So, you know, a number of years ago, I'd say 6, 7 years ago, Doug Morton said, hey, you know, what do you guys think about rotating chairman? And everyone thought that was a good idea. So I know that, you know, we've gone through, and I know that Carmen's did a great job. She did it for 2 years. And at Lynn's, you've done an exceptionally great job. But, you know, as I told Lynn, I says, I think it's nice that other people get the you know, I'll probably be gone. I'm not doing this because of me, because I'll probably be gone in 2 years. But if they haven't got the urban trail, then I'm still gonna be talking to the city council, but Brandon,
You didn't get it for 2 years too, though.
no, I just
I
did
thought you
it
did
for,
for two. Oh,
no,
okay.
it just seemed like it. So, no, I was only 1 year, you know, I think I followed you, Howard. And, you know, I think everyone that's has been chairman's done a good job. Some people probably better than others, you know. But I just think it's I think it's just a great opportunity to say, hey, you know, I get to kind of do that. And as I told Lynn, Lynn, I know that you've done an exceptional job. You do all these extra things that I don't even want to do. But I says, you know, you can still do those things even if you're not chairman. So my feeling is I would like to see it rotated to do it. And so Brandon, you were vice chair, so you were gonna move up. So I don't know, other people can say what they feel and we'll go from there.
I like the idea of rotation myself. I mean, it's nothing, anything.
That's fine.
So, I mean, it's just that, you know, everybody gets, you know, well, not everybody gets a shot, but, you know, just.
And then I kind of hesitate, Paul, I don't want you to take this, you might take this the wrong way. Sometimes I say things that I shouldn't say. But I know that, you know, Paul misses a lot of meetings because of his job. I mean, I'm not blaming you for doing that. You know, I missed 2 months because I was, you know. And
He's usually on Zoom.
yeah, well, but yeah, you could do it on Zoom. So I still think that, you know, if Paul wanted to do it, I'm good for that, but I would think he'd need to make a commitment to try to be here more.
Too busy. I mean, I would, if I mean, it's been a long time since I've done it, but
Dana's
I'm
also,
just so busy, you know, if somebody else wants to do it, I would certainly be okay if somebody else wanted to do it.
You know, Dana, you know, was probably Jacob's.
I'd like to nominate Dana myself.
Leah's got her hand up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to be considered for chair.
I'd like to nominate you for chair.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, and anybody for vice chair?
Thank you. I will wait a little bit so I'm familiar.
This is her first one.
Yeah,
So
I would do, if it is, I'm not a real paperwork person, so the actual chair would never suit me again, because I just not that well put together to lead meetings occasionally or try to put together.
When
work
the
plans.
chair is absent, then what you do is lead
Yes.
the meeting.
And that's what I do at the watershed council.
but see that, but then the next year, you're kind of moved, you'd be moved. I'm not a computer person either, so.
I'm kind of glad I'm retired because it does take a lot of time. You're looking back at all that was done at this meeting and making sure it gets on the next agenda. Then what else do you have to do beside that? What does that subject matter lead to something else? What else can we be doing to move forward? You know, there's a lot to think about with all your parks, and just like I brought extra copies today of, okay, it's a new year. So now you have to sign your 2023 form for Kathy Payne so that you can volunteer in your park. You know, or you have to make sure that everybody knows that their code of ethics is supposed to be in on the 20th, or you're doing a lot of reminding and reading and preparing. And there's sometimes I spent 3 hours doing that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So Lynn, can we make a nomination for a vice?
I just want to make sure everybody who wants to be chair or vice chair knows that it will be some work.
Howard, is that your name? Howard, I think that it would be great for you to be vice chair. And
I don't know if Howard wants to be chair, that's.
That's the whole thing.
But maybe if you're-
I admit I'm just not that good of an organized person.
maybe after you're vice chair.
Well, I've done it before.
Would there be any problem?
So I wouldn't mind being vice chair.
Maybe
I
nominate.
I would like to nominate Scott because.
I would like to refuse this now. Sorry, Jerry.
Hey, you're a computer person though, you know.
No, you saw me on our interview. I couldn't even get on Zoom.
I told you I'd help you.
Okay, so vice
So
chair.
that leaves us with Lynn then,
Okay,
and I think that's a good choice if no one else wants to do it, yeah.
okay, so there's only one for chair and one for vice chair.
Secret ballot, I'm thinking.
That's what I was going with too, secret ballot.
Secret ballot? I was gonna say, no, are you guys kidding me? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. All right, all those in favor?
Um,
Or do we need to?
Should we,
Yes, you should make a motion.
should we have the candidates actually tell us what, they're gonna do in their roles?
All right, let's get serious here.
Okay.
So Scott nominated Dana for chair and Jerry seconded, so you could technically move on.
Okay, we'll do that first.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so it's, you've been nominated and accepted, okay? So, let's have a vote for chair. Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor? For Dana as the new chair of the Parks and Trails Commission. Okay, and that was unanimous.
I don't know what Dana did, she voted.
Yes.
Send me a text, no. Okay, so, who nominated me as vice chair?
I did.
Okay.
I'll
And,
second that.
okay. So, all those in favor of having Lynn be vice chair for 2023, raise your hand.
My hand is raised.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's been all, let's see. Do we have to, yeah, we have to make a motion to move that forward.
Jerry seconded for you for, yes.
Yes. Okay, so the motion to move forward we have to move that to city council.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So the motion to move the new nominated chair and vice chair has to have a motion and then we have to vote on it.
We're voting again on our votes.
Yeah, well, we voted for who would be chair and vice chair, or who you want to be, but chair. and vice.
Nominated.
And now we have to move it on to city council.
Okay.
Make a motion that we adopt our nominees for chair and vice chair as stated.
Second,
I second the motion.
Did you get that? Yep. Okay, great. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand.
I,
All right, it's all been approved and the motion is going to be moved forward to city council at the next meeting, which I believe is the 18th. Next, on number
before
7.
we quit, stop that, I just want to thank you for your service too.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
You set a very high bar.
Yeah.
Very good job,
thank
Lynn.
you, thank you.
And as vice chair, you will do equally as.
I'm not gonna stop bringing things forward. so.
I will be leaning on you, Lynn, and asking for your help and support as I get into it. So thank you.
I'm here for you. Okay, so satellite parks, Commissioner Jacobson.
I just want to make people aware of the property, city property up, where Jerry and I went, well, Jerry brought me to look for a dam that he promises is up there. It could be, utilized also not just for timber sales, as a, a place to go and hike and all that. I've gone up there 3 times now. And, some of the, I don't know what the exact property lines are, but you get some nice aspects of the mountains from some of the, well, not trails, but they're 2 tracks.
The creek up there is really,
It's all good stuff.
really beautiful also.
Yeah.
The beautiful part of the creek.
Yeah.
Parts of it.
So I would just want to put it on everybody's radar that sometime in the future, it could be utilized as a satellite park.
Okay, is that the only space that the city owns that you're concerned about, or?
Not concerned, I'm just highlighting it.
Okay, highlighting. Okay, is that the only spot
That
though?
I know, I'll let you know if there's other ones.
Okay, because what I was gonna suggest is maybe for the next meeting, you could bring a list of those areas by going to planning and then maybe get a map And then have us,
I'm gonna be in Mexico for a couple weeks,
oh,
maybe a
yeah,
couple months.
couple months, that's right,
So I'll miss one meeting.
okay. So you'll
Well,
miss February.
I'll try to zoom in.
Where is that?
Well, don't do that on your vacation. You could do that in March. Oh, okay.
Where is the
Pittsburgh Road,
Hitzman Road?
Pittsburgh Road.
What on,
About the watershed side or the San Mario Lake side?
oh, the Salmonberry Lake side,
Both would be nice. I mean, I didn't explore Seminary Lake that much.
is that what you're talking about, is the Salmonberry area?
Well, there's one side of the road and the other side. And,
You're on
The watershed, the watershed side is what Scott was talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one I've explored the most. The other one I've gone down a couple of times, just to the lake, so. But
Is there
I'm
any
still,
signs there?
still, just that you have to leave your name on the gate to get into it.
There's a sign that says what it is and the rules. There's a big
Oh.
4x6 sign that states all the rules. There's a box there. You fill out a permit. You're supposed to keep the corner permit on yourself. And you put the rest of it in the box and walk through, or you can come down to City Hall and you can get a year-long permit also.
Oh,
That way you don't have to fill out a slip every time.
okay, that'd be interesting to take a tour up there.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
You know,
really
like
nice.
at
up there.
Sand Island or Dalton Lake or Boise property. Be nice to get together and, because a lot of people haven't been up there and seen that. So,
We're still looking for the dam.
Jerry can direct us to the dam.
Go in and take the first left and go all the way to the end at the U-turn. That's where the view is.
I'm talking about the old watershed dam, the concrete one that's on there.
Oh, geez, I don't know where that is.
I've been there.
Jerry does.
I used to go there quite a bit. I couldn't find it this time. Got lost. Got stung.
Yeah.
Not by Mason.
No, not by me, by a hornet.
But it's a nice thing. I mean, it could be like a satellite.
There's some nice walk, it's nice up there.
That's one of the things that's missing, I think, in St. Helens is, a prolonged trail. I mean, the Boise property could, suffice for that once it gets going, but I mean, it's also a nice different because it's up in the hills and, you get some aspects of some of the mountains around.
so would you suggest a tour of that when you get back from Mexico?
Sure.
Sometime in March? Okay, so why don't you, when you're back in March, you could come up with some dates for the commissioners.
We'll try. I'm back the day before the meeting.
Oh. Well, that won't be hard to suggest. Okay. All right, is that all of the discussion?
That's more than I just,
Okay,
just wanted to make people aware.
thank you, Scott. Okay, now, we have listed 5 different things for Howard Blumenthal. But he said 8 and 9 could go together.
It's really only 3.
Yeah, 8 and 9, 9 and 10 together, and then 12 on its own. So we'll start with 8 and 9.
I'll try to keep this moving fairly quickly. The staircase in Nob Hill, the railroad high staircase, I probably need to talk to you, Buck. We've been having it's been closed now because of the construction down below. And due to, it's steep, it was always a drainage ravine. I've been keeping a lot of larger rock on it, been maintaining at the very top of the stairs an area for the water to enter it. And over the last couple of years, that whole area has changed with its use, the volume of traffic and stuff. And then we had somebody who slipped on some of the loose gravel on the staircase just after Halloween Town. And so we were told that we can't have any loose gravel up there anymore. And now what's happened is the trail itself has become totally compacted. A machine went in there and drug all my big gravel off that used to let the water go down into the pipe for drainage. It's all sealed now. The top of the trail where we put on, we thought that it was going to be good to use, what was it, 3/4 minus with the dirt, which in most places is good, but it had so much dirt in it now. Once again, it didn't allow any water to go into it. So the top of the trail now is getting erosion about this deep. The water goes down to the top of the stairs where it used to have big rock that would allow it to go in. And I've actually, the barricade is about 6 feet above that now, so I have no access to do that. that the staircase now is starting to, there's erosion down one side of it. And we've had a couple of rain events that have washed rocks down the stairs. So my whole question is, who ultimately, we need to talk about how we can protect that staircase from getting washed out and who's gonna,
Who's responsible for that?
yeah,
Me and my crew.
okay. I'd like to meet up there because I do have valuable knowledge.
That's fine. I've heard concerns of this, and I understand the concerns, and I don't want more damage to happen to the stairs or the property.
Yeah.
But, you know, for the time being, the stairs are closed, and that's
Yeah.
for the public safety
Yeah.
during the construction. But, you know, I can promise you that that stairway won't be opened up until it is corrected, and it
Because I think we,
that's top priority is the safety of our citizens.
we do need to meet though.
And fine, we can-
Next week or so, because
And maybe, I'm pretty slammed, but I could try.
just so we can try to get something going on, if it, you know, especially if it's closed, maybe we can dig down at the top of it, to get the water that's there to go down into the drainage rather than overtopping the stairs.
We can discuss it.
So I'd like to meet with you or give you a call or something. So I guess that's wrapping that up fairly quickly for 9 and 10. The next one would be, I was just kind of talking about budget. Everybody's been starting to talk about budget and stuff. I know last year, I believe the budget committee that we did have one park employee we didn't have renewed that went away or something. So I just want to start ideas that we need to start talking about budgets for areas and stuff. I know that the city enjoys being able to bring equipment in occasionally. And I want to start also proposing that maybe the bridge by the kiosk needs to be upgraded so that if we do have to bring vehicles in, that they would stay on the bridge and not have to drive through areas that we're trying to do planting and stuff. So that's another thing we need to start looking and trying to budget for is what kind of bridge would we put in there that would be capable of handling a Bobcat or whatever. Our little 4x6 bridges are pretty good for a certain amount of people, but I'm starting to get concerned, especially during special events that we have in there, that are they really rated to have 30 or 40 people standing on the bridge all at one time? We never had any envision that when those were designed that way, that we would have that type of volume of people be going through there in large.
It would have to be an engineer thing, or just, you're gonna have to limit the number of people. I mean, if it's a safety concern, just, I mean, I would be better safe than sorry, right? I mean.
Well, that's another thing, when we meet, I'll have to point out my concerns about it and show it to you in there, you know. So that's just it. The parks management, that falls under.
Let's say something about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't it, you're talking about the boardwalk itself?
I'm talking about the little 16-foot bridge by the kiosk, the entrance down by the vineyard plant, or by the sewage treatment plant.
Okay.
That bridge there. You know,
What I was gonna say is, doesn't matter.
the boardwalk is doing well. Actually, the high water we had a few weeks ago, the end going closest towards actual Nob Hill Nature Park, that was actually did have about 10-15 feet where that was under about 4 to 6 inches of water for a few days, and then it was heated. And the boardwalk, once again, for a few days, when you'd walk on it, it would go down about 2 inches into the water, that it was actually lightly floating, but that's about the most I've ever seen. It is about 2 inches floating. When you step on it, it goes down about 2 inches in the water, and it doesn't look like it's moving anywhere when it's floating. It looks like it's pretty well secure in there, you know. The next one is that the Watershed Council, they've kind of caught up with what they were doing on the Fifth Street right-of-way trail of what we call where that boardwalk is. And me and Caroline now are proposing that the first Saturday in March that we'd like to do a work party along that Fifth Street right-of-way trail, removing ivy and blackberries, maybe a drop of gravel, work to be determined. The question that I'm lightly having in there, and I still haven't been able to find anybody who can give me an answer, maybe you can, Buck, would be are we gonna still have good access on Plymouth Street for our parking with all the construction that's going on? I know that they're saying that most of it's taking place inside of the vineyard plant area. Is there any chance that they're coming up Plymouth Street with all water line or anything that would interfere with our work
Give you a
party?
decent answer right now, but I could certainly look into it, Ned, when we meet up, I could try to get you answers to
Because
that.
that's something we need to know, because I mean, 1st of March is coming up really fast. And for doing publicity on that, you know, so I need to make sure too, for our work party that we have in April, that we would still have access to those 2 parking lots that we use right in there across from the sewage.
We'll find out.
Okay, okay. The other one then real quickly would be is that we did a kind of a synopsis of what Friends of Nob Hill Nature Park and the 5th Street right away did. And I just want to give you guys a couple of numbers or a few numbers here. In the spring, we had regular, which was a lot of me and Caroline, we gave 72 hours in 6 months. Work parties that we had at the beginning of the year gave 59 hours for a total of 131 hours of volunteer time in the first 6 months of the year. And then there was about 25 hours of time donated to the 5th Street right away. And then in the fall, me and Caroline donated almost 76 hours, and our work party had 30 hours. So for the second half of the year, it was 136 hours of volunteer time in Nob Hill and 15 on the 5th Street right away. So that would be a grand total of 237 hours of volunteers gave for the Nob Hill Nature Park area over the last year. And the 5th Street would be around 40 hours of volunteer time. So everybody knows that you have a pretty active group that does that in there. We like to give those numbers out because we know some of the grants, sometimes they look at in kind labor and stuff goes towards grants and stuff. So we like to keep the commission updated on that stuff.
Nicely done.
So I think that's it. So mine up a little quicker than I thought I could. And I'll try to make it more clear so it doesn't come out with 5 items on the agenda the next time.
Okay, any old business that we might have missed?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but just want to talk about,
Last meeting?
the last meeting, so, I would want to bring up what I was talking about with the website. And I was looking through it and just thought maybe it'd be better to actually have a Visit St. Helens website rather than using just the city website, which is kind of clinical in a Stewart. I met with Tina and she's looking into that. I spoke with Brandon and about the historical aspect that email me about it. And we're gonna wait until we get back from Tina.
Awesome. Yeah, I would double check with Crystal too. I don't know if you guys have done that, because I know there's different rules for government and websites and who's updating them and retention and stuff too, so.
Well, I think it, leads in with what, Tina's purview is, with tourism, and that would be Visit St. Helens. We could do something with the parks there,
Oh.
show off the parks in that venue. So that's one thing. Also, I had met with Jenny the other day about the waterfront project. And she told me the design is about 90% done. I had met with her earlier about my concerns with the stage being offset from the amphitheater as it is. See it down there. Far one, don't have a visual aid, sorry about that. I still have some reservations about it, but I'm so late in the process that, there's, like
Can you give some clarification on the placement of the stage? I mean, I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
well, you'd have to look at that.
So you're saying is that the people that are sitting currently in the stands that's there, the rock,
Yeah, you have the amphitheater, the curvature of the amphitheater.
Right.
Like this, and the stages would be just facing this portion of the amphitheater.
oh, it's just facing portions of it.
Well, I
It's
mean,
not facing, so everyone there,
hold on. You can still see it, from every seat. And I was just down there today looking at it
so
again.
you think it should be moved more so that people have a
I
better
was
view?
hoping that we could do that, but like I said, it's so late in the
Okay,
in the game. It's just, I just wanted to say that now, I was wanted to say I'm really.
Are they too late in the game? I mean, they haven't poured the foundation yet, have we?
Well, I mean, they've got the design, they're going off.
How much are you talking about moving it?
Well,
Take a look at it, Jerry, over there and you'll see.
Scott can tell me, how much do you think it'd have to be moved?
I never measured it, sorry.
Are you talking 1 foot, 10 feet?
To be centered on the amphitheater would be quite a move, but they're also developing other bits and elements to for that stage.
So did they have a reason why they wanted it like it is now?
I think it was the design through whoever the mayor, you know the name of the
Paul Foster.
mayor something, 2 names,
Maren Reed. maybe?
yeah, something like that. I
So
think.
how does the city, people that you've talked to, how do they feel about your recommendations? Do they think that they're good, bad, indifferent?
Well, they've taken them aboard, but it's still,
There must be a reason why it's set up like
I
that.
think they were talking about that it was angled a little bit more away from the amphitheater so that the grass area could promote maybe more people having picnicking and being able to see the stage rather than the stage going straight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think,
stage left of that, there's a,
I
that
think,
makes sense. It's probably.
I think I do remember them talking about.
there's a mound over on
And they,
the.
you know, yeah, sitting there on the grass.
On stage left, there's a mound for people sitting also, plus there's 2 elements of benches that are gonna extend out there that are gonna be same stonework.
Oh,
Of what the amphitheater is. It'll extend out there. And I mean, I'm just not sure how it's all
Where
good.
are you talking about the benches being extended at?
Just in front of the stage, but you know, further away from the stage.
There'll be a new set of them built?
There's 2 of them, I believe, that
Yeah.
they're kind of like an L.
So they're at the south end of the current ones?
Well, it'd be facing the stage. If the stage is looking out this way, it'd be, you know, set a little bit back from the stage.
Right in front of it.
No, but there's a dance floor in front of it. And then behind that is the bench, and then behind that is another bench. Behind that will be Ballard lighting.
So the people that are sitting up in the stands, will those benches be in their way?
That was my question to know, that from what I.
So the answer is no for that, huh?
Don't quote me, but I think I saw on the agenda for the planning commission this week, they're talking about stage design. So if you're interested, that might be a good meeting to attend.
Zoom in on.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that, Bradley.
I have a question on the website now. So are you including, like, our new name would be Parks and Trails so that people can see what's happening in the parks as far as work groups and new additions to the parks and that kind of,
What I was looking at when I was brought it up was looking for exposure for our parks.
right?
So, I mean, I
So you
think,
can put in there.
yeah, but I think that's something that you could get in from the city website,
Mhm.
something to that. What I'm looking for is, you know, something that looks, you know, verdant and really, really nice, make you want to go to these places.
Yeah.
So that- And that's what, you know, the Visit St. Helens would, you know, encompass that.
If we had an urban trail that connected them all together, that would be better.
You know what?
Ecotourism, that's what we need. Ecotourism, yeah.
Come on, Buck. Give yours to me.
Okay, that's pretty much with old business. I have some new business. We'll get to that.
Okay, we already did new business. Do you want to, you mean,
Other
other
business.
business? Okay. So the action items were parks assignment, because I knew we were gonna have a new commissioner on board, so you need to look at the list that I passed out. And we have 2 open parks, Guthrie Park and Civic Pride Park now. So now would be a good time if you feel like this park doesn't need 2 people and you'd like to be off one park and put on another, we can consider all that too at the next meeting. So. Sorry,
I would be happy to be taken off Ray Cliffs Park and put on Godfrey Park.
okay,
That's, if you want it, that's next time.
okay. And Dana is on Great West, right?
Yeah, maybe she should maybe sign in.
As far as going down to just a 1 person,
Yeah, you doing it by yourself?
Well, I'm pretty
Okay.
focused on Campbell Park right at the moment, but I suppose I could
Oh.
do a little more at the Graces.
There's a lot going on at Columbia Botanical Gardens. I mean, that's not a,
But there should be.
We gotta keep our,
We've got to keep that.
oh, no, I wanna talk about it. Oh, no. I mean, I wanna keep it as a nature park.
And if you need volunteers, I can help you get volunteers to do whatever you might want to do on that.
be great to get a friends group for that park.
I don't have a friends group. I mean, I don't think you need one.
Well,
If you know other
we set
people.
that up a few years ago.
There's
That
also-
was the greatest way to get people involved in our parks was to do friends groups. We spent a lot of time on it, so I don't see what the resistance is. It's a great way to have a loose knit group of people look after a park and be involved in it, and it's a great way to have it named.
Well, I've got a short list of people that at the Citizens Day in the park, I just made up some kind of, something they could sign up for. And some preferred to do just one park, and others, they want to do all the parks. They didn't care, where they volunteered. So I think we're all involved with other groups of some kind. And so we also now have, according to Shauna, we can tap into the jail crew. And they can come out, and if you're specific on what you'd like them to do, we could
And
ask
do
for
that just so we wouldn't have a rogue group is why that was all developed. We had a lady come into here, which she wanted to start having a 501(c) and all this other stuff. And so that's why we came up with the idea to have a friends group that would loosely knit and have formality, and then the city could have accounts set up for that particular park got grants and stuff. And I think it's a very underutilized thing that we came up with is that Nob Hill is the only group that has ever followed what we talked about doing as far as a friends group to look after parks. And I just.
For the benefit of all the members.
Yeah, I thought it was just the greatest thing was to have friends group that would champion parks, when somebody was really enthused with a park, that it just sounded like a good way to go. It lets you get into things like that you could borrow tools from the city, whereby other groups that I don't think that just people, that's why we set up the friends group.
like Solve, they brought their own, they have their own clippers and their own this and that.
Yeah.
I think
And
you kind of have some of what you're saying already, because you got the disc golf group that takes care of their course there, you got the BMX. group
And
that
that's why
takes care of the
we
BMX.
should be
park.
more formalized, we should follow the example
I'm
of
just saying, you
Kind of-
you do kind of have that, in terms of like people that volunteer time and in the parks in the city, I think. you
It'd
have
be
that
great when
already.
you looked at the city website and you looked at the friends group that you would see all these other groups. And as it is right now, Nob Hill is the only one that's listed in there. And to me, the Dalton Lake should be listed in there as a friends group or facsimile. The disc golf people should be listed in there that way, because then people know who to get in touch with those groups and everything else. And I mean, that's why we set the friends group up.
so does your groups only work on Nob Hill, or did they say that they would work on any parks?
A lot of our volunteers just do it because they enjoy Nob Hill, and I mean, you could be a member of many different friends parks. It's also a way that we try to get it set up, because if you look at the friends group, it talks about that the city should be communicating with the friends group. So if you have a park and you don't have a friends group, then you can't come back and say, hey, look, you're not communicating with me. You say, it's not a friends group. That's why we set the whole thing up. We made up a brochure and we did all types of work to try to make it more of a uniform process to have when you have a group of people that want to take on a park and do it, that it would be all uniform, that you wouldn't have a patchwork and have many different versions of it. You never said you had to have officers or anything, but it was just a way to identify a group that was involved in one park?
I think it depends too on how much work you're doing in the
Uh-huh.
park, like you do a lot of work in there.
Uh-huh.
You know, I just maintain the trails, but and Public Works puts in the benches, you know, and then we have kiosks because it's a preserve. There's some parks where they won't need that kind of volume of volunteers. But it's gonna be important, and I thought by starting this list, we could, every time we have an event, and we can put something out on the media too, asking for volunteers for our parks. And what park are you interested in working in? Are you interested in working in all the parks? And I think we need to get that out there because we really haven't done that, you know, and I have, I'm a little different. I have an advisory committee. We get together, decide when we want to have a work group because we know our
You're
preserve.
just,
And what
to
needs to
me,
be
that's
done.
just that you just got a different name, but you're still a friends group.
Well, the thing,
You guys advise just like we advise on.
I like Lynn's idea that, we have a group of people who are interested in working in parks. And so if we're gonna have a cleanup at, say, Nob Hill Park or the Botanical Gardens or somewhere else, those people have already indicated that they're interested in helping, and then we can contact them, because, we do the cleanup, we've been doing it a couple of times a year at Botanical Gardens. I'm not sure we're gonna continue doing it twice, maybe just once a year. But it would really be nice to have a list of people other than the list of people I have that typically show up.
So what I'm gonna do when we have our cleanup, I'll mention that later, but I'm gonna keep that list and add to it. And if they want a specific park, then I'm gonna pass that on to you, whether it's the BMX track or whether it's, anywhere. And just keep working on that, but we've got a scout troop that she says, oh, I'll work anywhere, so.
So Lynn, maybe when you make this list, like for the Botanical Gardens, you could say, if you're in, if you're part of this, you say, we do a cleanup once or twice a year. If you'd like to sign up, if you'd like your name to be included for the Botanical Gardens, I would like that to be
Yes.
said, because I don't want people thinking, well, they gotta do a whole bunch of stuff. They show up for, basically, we do it about 3 hours, don't we, from the beginning to the end. We don't make it very long. Would you be willing to donate, 3 hours once or twice a year?
Could you have just friends of a certain park like Nob Hill and friends of the parks?
Yeah, friends of the parks, yeah.
I was also gonna want to ask about, discuss about what we were talking about, when Jay and you and I met. And I don't think I spoke very well upon it, about having more than one person assigned to a park. The reason why I was just thinking that, it's like a workout buddy, you have somebody you can bounce off of, and you do, and if you can't get to that park for a while, they can also, so I think, people would, would like to, get it, do a couple of, 2 people to it.
I like it. Botanical Garden, because he lives on 3rd Street, that's right by it. I live on the other side of it. Yeah, that'd be nice too.
Killer commute.
So Scott, do you wanna do that?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
That's great.
Maybe, I think it's a great idea to bounce.
If we're nominating.
If you can bounce ideas off people, I think it really does help,
It does help. I nominate Lauren to come to the park for nominating people.
Okay, I'll do that.
See, that's right there. You guys could call it a friends group. You could have a contact information. Whatever. They could contact information and get in touch with you.
Yeah. And
You mentioned the work crew. Just remember, if you're gonna try to utilize the work crew, that needs to go through me.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah, no.
I just didn't want it to be like you guys call on the weekend, work that comes or
Yeah,
whatever.
no, I have to talk to you about, I didn't get that.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, no problem.
Well, I'll make another suggestion. Now that Brandon has gone, he has more power now than he used to. I mean, he actually could get something done. I mean, I really like the idea. I know Lynn, you guys worked on it. I haven't worked on it, but I really do like the idea of the Japanese garden in McCormick Park.
I was just gonna say that.
So maybe, you know, Lynn, you could go on McCormick Park with Jake or something. I'm just, because I know that you would like, I would just like to say that I would like to see you be part of McCormick Park because of the potential of having a Japanese garden there, which I think would be.
Could we delineate that away from the McCormick Park and just call it the Japanese Garden? And then have,
I don't think the McCormicks would like that very well.
it's their garden, isn't it?
It could be the McCormick Japanese
No,
garden.
No, I'm saying,
No,
no, I'm saying about
For that sign.
people assigned to it,
Say that again.
about people being assigned to it, because, I mean, you're talking about the McCormick Park. Let's see. Who's assigned to that?
Jake.
Yeah, I mean, just him, I mean, and you want to do the Japanese garden, we could have just it specialized, you know, volunteer or somebody assigned to that particular aspect.
Of the park.
Yeah, that's what I do. I like the BMX track and it says BMX and skate.
I would be,
Yeah.
Scott, I like that idea. I would be willing to speak with Lynn if we did, that's a
You know,
good
that-
idea. I'd be willing to
Okay.
help you clean up that rock pile and.
And
I've got a lot of tools.
and have volunteered a number of times. to-
That's a good idea.
And the other one too is I would
Great idea.
love to see a lot of these work parties be listed in the city's monthly news.
Yes,
Because I'm not a Facebook person, so a lot of times I find out about work parties after the fact.
That's what
Same
I'm
here.
suggesting.
Crystal knows she'll
have Parks and trails, you know, sites so that people can see what's happening in the parks, whether it's a work party or they're gonna be moving soil or they're gonna be doing, you know, whatever.
I suggest that to Emily. They're doing McCormick.
Yeah, I missed that. It was half of the football game.
And I would like to be notified anytime you guys are doing anything with the Japanese garden as well, because I love that and would love to participate in that.
I haven't found it yet, so I'd love to learn more about
Emily will be there this month.
Everybody loves the Japanese garden.
it. Emily?
Oh, yeah,
Well, she's gonna spray for it.
just a little bit. It's not much. She's gonna train the person that's taking her.
Yeah, because Emily
You
is,
guys have done a good job on it already, because you've uncovered a lot already.
Yes, got it started.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be, you know, but like I said, I got a lot of good tools, so we get in there.
and then just an update on the Watershed Council, Emily is leaving at the end of this month.
At the end of this month.
Yeah, and then we hired a new coordinator and a new person to kind of take over her position, which I haven't met yet, so we'll see how that's all gonna start to
You need to be-
pan out. I think Emily still may be involved a little bit,
Yeah.
volunteering occasionally, but she's gonna be.
Can I start working on it?
Getting back to our parks and who wants to be on that. He said he can use some help at the BMX park in spring and March.
Usually by April, we try to get
Or April.
March or April, sometime around spring break usually. So I'll
Probably
I'll
cutting
do
grass
something
and-
out there, or whatever. I don't do like, it's kind of ongoing for a couple months. It's not like I don't do like one day and get it all done in one day. Usually I'm not able to, but maybe I can put together a day or something and put it out there that I'll be down there on a particular day. And if anybody wants to, we can publish it or whatever and try to get some volunteers out.
Bring our weed eaters.
Yeah.
What do you do specifically on the BMX trail?
It's basically every spring, it's cutting a lot of grass and killing weeds on the track and getting all the weeds peeled off the surface, basically to get exposed to dirt, because the blackberry bushes, you know, those kind of things, basically.
Put me on your list.
Me too.
Okay, we have Civic Pride Park that has no one right now. And I think that is very important. And if nobody else wants to volunteer, I'll work on that too.
I mean, I've recommended before, and then Howard did too. What can we make that into a more of a community garden? Yeah, that'd be really nice. a good spot for
A public garden,
it. A community garden.
community
yeah.
gardens.
You know,
I don't know, would you have something to say about that? You've been working on that for a while and you've had a lot of.
Yeah, I would love to see it revived and usable again. I think time in the 50s when they put that in, it was a community effort and it was kind of the pride of the community for a number of years.
Mhm.
Now it's just kind of been forgotten, neglected, so whatever it is we can do there, I'd love to see it brought back. Right next to the pool, right next to the school, it's a perfect place for a park.
There's a foundation there already. You can put a structure, you know, like a shed to put tools in for gardeners, you know, while you're doing it. There's 3 sides of it already blocked off. Just the 4th side, which is, you know, I think it's off at 77 paces.
You could have entertainment there on that.
Cut that off.
That's,
To cut that off. To
used
be
to have
able
band
to.
concerts there.
Yeah. Hook up
Teachers
to
at
the
Lewis and
electricity.
Clark have told me we would use it, we would have classes there if there was something there, somewhere for the kids to sit, so.
And Jerry brought up having trees planted, native trees in there.
Tina has a design for this, for the rose garden. That's, she has the money and the design. She's trying to push this forward with the county to refurbish that into a small little stage and area right over here for people to perform at and that type of stuff. And when I get back, I'm open to help her on that.
Yeah, I thought what you mentioned about there used to be music and things there, that sounds like a good thing for
Play equipment,
community.
it was a
There are houses there too, wasn't there?
yeah, they had a bathroom facility at one time.
It is very underused. I mean, there isn't even a sign to let somebody know that that's a city park in there and stuff.
Well, if there's a, you know, there's already water there, I think, you know, to be able to water your.
They'll have to.
I was gonna say, do we put a feeler out someday and something like the city's newsletter saying, is there interest in having community gardens? Would you, if we had a community garden in the city, would people be interested in renting a 10 by 20-foot plot where you don't have room in your own garden, but you could go in there and plant your vegetables or whatever?
I mean, when I lived in the UK, they called them allotments and they were quite popular.
Didn't they do that at Honeyhuman Park?
I was gonna ask maybe,
Yeah.
somebody could ask the senior center how that setup works, because they have one, but I never see anybody there.
Yeah, they do have one, but I mean, to expand on that, you have all those trees, it's gonna be very shaded,
I think,
you know,
yeah, I
very
think
limited for that.
there's no water that they have right now. Is that correct? In there?
Civic pride.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think it'd be.
There's a fire
hydrant in the corner.
there's a fire hydrant.
there used to be, I know where the meters and everything are, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't be that.
Yeah, probably
difficult.
water.
The main thing there is just deer proof it, because
Yeah,
the ones
that's what I'm
over at,
saying.
Okay.
there's a garden over at Lewis and Clark that we helped build with the after school program, and it gets, the deers come in and yeah,
Yeah, we've got gardens at the schools too, that the master gardeners help put in.
yeah.
So, I
Forgot
think
about
it'd be
those.
nice to have a little park for kids to come and.
There's 3 sides of it already
Because
blocked off.
it wasn't taken care of,
3 sides of it blocked
so.
off?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
opened by the school.
Well, I mean, if you go back up by the platform, the concrete platform, there's 3 sides that comes.
Barclays playing, West Kid. Barclays playing.
Create 4 sides.
Yeah.
That one anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a nice area, it's right next to a school.
Swimming pool was gonna take it over for a while, and we're gonna build a splash pad out there, but then they decided not to, so that's why it hasn't been used for.
We've tried to get them to take that over the years and every time they just eventually go, oh, we don't.
Not from enough money.
Yeah. That's why it was so good that they finally changed their name, because a lot of times people go, what? We get taxed on our bill because they were the Greater St. Helens Park and Recreation District. But it was only to run the swimming pool, so I'm so happy that they changed their name, so we don't have that confusion anymore. That was a huge deal.
So Lauren, would you be interested in working on that? Civic Pride Park, or is it a little too much? Or,
I would be willing to work on it, I just don't feel there's a direction that we agree on, so I wouldn't really know how to get started.
somebody comes with a proposal on our parks, so you can develop a proposal.
Okay.
Yes.
I will
Talk to
work on
people.
If there's no direction, you can give it direction.
That's
Talk
right.
to Brandon.
And there's also a Parks Master Plan that has a plan for
Yeah.
civic pride in there of what they wanted to see in 10 years. And I would look at that and see if that has any
Thank you.
type of thing, yeah.
Have you gotten a copy of the Parks and Trails?
Yes, I have. Thank you. I feel better now.
Okay.
I'm worried about the others
And I
after.
have a couple,
You made the plan, just like,
and I've talked with Main Street about doing like a farmer's market fair type thing that they're looking at, that might be a good place. And then a connection with OSU Extension that does do a lot of the community garden stuff that could help with that too.
Okay, I do know that that elementary school near there, Lewis and Clark does have a garden program already. That I need more space too.
Yeah, and that's OSU Extension that put that in with helps of the Parks and Recreation here, so.
Okay, yeah, so I could take that over and talk to people and figure out what's will be most welcome there.
so you might want to connect with Brandon too, because he has a background on that.
Okay, thank you.
Down here. Okay, so. Anything else on that? We'll talk about this more, you know, if we want to fine tune it. First assignment, so, I'd like to get a subcommittee started, and we can do this at the next meeting. But think about it, a subcommittee of people that want to work on grants for parks. And they're out there. And we just need to get together because, you know, I thought, you know, I wanted to do that all by myself, but I can't do it. We need a couple people at least, maybe 2 or 3.
Well, and I started working on those and I was told that that was not my responsibility. It was the city staff's responsibility. Maybe they've changed. I'm just saying, and I was kind of disappointed in the way that was handled. Because, you know, I did bring one grant forward and I know the city never did anything about it. But I was told, you know, that's not your business. I think it could be our business, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I was not very happy when I was told that.
Well, that might be something that we can go to Mohammed with too, about getting grants for the park. So if we have something that we need to do, you're gonna have the money to install it. Or you're gonna, you know, we can, or buy the signs, or, you know, get whatever it is. But we don't have any money, parks.
Because isn't that
So-
what they talk about, maybe trying to get some of this for the urban trail, is trying to get grants for part of the urban trail,
Mhm.
you know, so.
There was a big one in September that was just. So I really think we need a subcommittee that
In
can
the
focus
past
on
has been working on grants for you guys in the city staff.
Who has?
So that's Jenny Dimshow. That's who I thought it would be. I just wanted to hear it. She's
Yeah,
not
and
on.
some of the ones that, and I think the one that you guys are talking about, September, we already have an open grant with them for the Riverwalk. So there's some things that are, even though it looks like it, you can only have so many grants open in that thing, and there's 2 really large Riverwalk grants that are open.
Well, I think.
These are smaller grants,
When I'm
too.
talking about Lynn, I think Lynn, you know, we could look for them and then those, well, or who's on the committee, I'm not a real computer person. But then they could be turned over to the city to take action on. But then we find them, the city's the one who pays.
Yeah, I don't know if we would necessarily be the group that would put it all together. There's quite a bit of work involved in some of those. There's information on some of those we have too, and
for
there's,
100,000.
there's information on there that, you know, yeah, anyways.
I mean,
There's a lot of them.
small
I
ones.
agree with what Jerry says. I think if we identified some and then took them to the city, I assume the city's probably looking at all of those grants all year long and trying to get as much money as they can get.
They're usually looking
Yeah.
at.
In every department, not just parks, they're everywhere.
And that's why,
Pretty busy.
So you're talking
Yeah.
about Jenny would be the one to go to.
and she's awfully busy, that's why I almost think that eventually that could be another position that if we're talking about trying to get more funding for parks, is that somehow there could be some money set aside for somebody to start looking at trying to get more grants for our city parks. Or for that type of thing, because Jenny's getting awfully busy. She doesn't have a lot of time for writing a lot of grants anymore. And we don't have anybody championing that for us anymore. So that's another position where it'd be great if the Parks Department just had more money, so that there could be somebody that spends a few hours a month trying to figure out how to get grants for the parks.
And some of these are very small. They're $500, which would buy signs for a number of our
Well, like,
parks, you
like,
know,
like I
or-
said a couple
yeah.
times in this meeting, when the infrastructure bill was passed, the state of Oregon is going to get billions. I can't remember, I want to say 3 billion, 6 billion. But the state of Oregon, I looked at one of their sites and they said, you know, when it comes about, there's a certain amount that's going to be set aside for projects like urban trails and things like that. That, you know, it was, I don't know how much it was several $1 million though. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, thousands, we're talking about millions that they were going to set aside of that infrastructure. There's the Oregon's share of it was going to go to things, and I think that's something that we should really be honed in on. You know, I've tried to talk to the city. I mean, I've tried contacting the state on that a few times, but.
We'll look.
Why don't you and I work on that then, because I have a connection at the state parks and head of marketing. And so that person is willing to steer me to the right person and find out what grants are there.
Those might be a couple years away, because I don't think the state has got their, you know,
Well,
their
that
cut of it.
particular grant,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
there's a lot
particular.
of, yeah,
That particular.
I'll talk to you more about that, okay? So the next, is there any other action items that you'd like to discuss? No? Okay, so the next is staff report.
You're staring at me.
Yeah, if you
New,
don't,
how's that?
okay, you're brand new, so we'll look forward to a report next month.
Yeah, I don't have much. I'm just trying to get settled in, and like I said, I'm trying to streamline things and simplify them for my crew so that we do the best job we can. And hopefully here shortly, weather improve, you guys will notice some improvements, and I hope you do. And I'm sure you'll let me know.
We're looking forward to it.
So are you over at the office at McCormick?
Not
Full-time, or-
not currently.
Okay.
I'm in what used to be the Stimson building. It's 1230 Old Portland Road, right on the corner of the Hope Yard and Deer Island. That's where my office is now.
Where they store all the bicycles?
Not anymore.
Bikes were at?
They're not in there anymore. Yeah, it's that place though.
Okay. that's great.
I'm there sometimes. I'm bouncing back and forth all over. So I hope to get some things settled out fairly soon on where my office will be and what's going on, but that's all still kind of in the mix and being decided right now.
And how many people do you have working for you?
Well, right now, I have Roger Stoffer, the carpenter. I have Brett Long, the mechanic, and I'm in charge of Tori, Julian, and Cameron in parks, and now Melissa. So that's my team.
Okay.
And what does Melissa do?
Types. That's part of what I'm figuring out. She does all the phone work, and she does, well, you can tell them if you'd like. You know what you do.
I do a various of admin tasks. I do reservations, special use permits. I do secretarial for you guys. I answer phones. I do I help out with recreation, with our programs. So, when we have open play, because my office is at the community center. So I help out there. It's a long list, which I don't have in front of me, so it's kind of, but I do various office administration tasks for both parks and recreation.
Well, it's suspended through ARPA grants funds until the end of 2024, unless we can get some permanent funding. And so she's shared between Parks and Rec mostly during this time, and then it goes about 50-50 during spring and summer as things.
So counselors report.
I don't have much to report here.
Okay.
Just want to thank you again for all that you do. Thank you for your dedication. A couple months ago, I had the chance, Lisa Scholl gave me a big box of Parks Commission records going back to the 50s. Interesting, but the phrase you see over and over again, no money, no money, no money. But despite not being much money in the budget, you guys are creative with fundraising and volunteering and in combination with the city, make things happen. So look at all the great things that have happened in the parks just the last few years. And a lot of those great ideas started here in this commission. So keep it up, keep bringing the ideas. I would encourage each of you, now that you've got kind of a park that you're responsible for looking out for, come up with a wish list of things that you'd like to see, and just a small change that gets done in the next year, that's an improvement to that park that we didn't have before. So come up with a list and share it with me, share it with Buck, share it with Shauna. Let's get it out there, and let's.
We've kind of been doing that.
So
A lot of those have been, would be in the Parks and Trails Master Plan that isn't getting rewritten for a few more years, and so.
there's still a lot of things in there too that haven't been
Yeah.
done yet. So there's a big list out there, but little by little, if we can start chipping away at some of those things, so work, it's appreciated.
Okay, other business. I have a few things. I just want to remind you that the Code of Ethics is due to Lisa Scholl on the 20th of this month. So be sure and get that form into her. Yeah, good, great.
I'll be leaving. Can I give it to you?
I'll put it in your mail.
And the volunteer release agreement is up for 2023, so that you can volunteer in your parks. And I put a bunch of them out on the table there, so if you want to fill that out before you go, I can get that to Kathy Payne, or that can drop it in her mailbox. I've got 2 here already. So. We've got the other one, yeah, and Buck will take that, put it in Lisa's
Okay.
That's a
mailbox.
good one with the forms, is that even though some people have signed it, some of our not, sometimes still that's a great way to keep track of who's at your work parties when you have work
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah, I always carry a bunch of those with me.
Are they
So-
available online?
I can send it to you.
Okay, because if not, if somebody is walking down the block, if they could just put it in my shop's mailbox for me, like, I'm sorry I'm not down there today.
Okay. We'll get it to you one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Jerry just said he'd drop it in your mailbox.
Thank you.
So anything else?
Uh,
Other business?
Yeah, I got a text from Steve Toskey about HB 3115. It says that HB 1 task force, they're putting together a task force looking for 2 Parks Commission representatives to participate in drafting place, time, and manner restrictions for free spaces for people to camp, sleep in St. Helens. So we're supposed, he asked to choose 2 people and let him know to be on this task force. So, what I spoke with him this morning, what he's really looking for is, he thinks that we should form a subcommittee talking about how to protect our parks, what to do,
So what is the time involved? Does he,
in
when
place, manner, and time, it'd be better talking to him because he has a better understanding than for me to try to explain it. So, but the thing is that he's asking for 2 people from us to be on this task force. And I would like to be on a task force.
The task first.
For the to look into HB 3115, which is the homeless bill. And
I would like to volunteer for that.
I was just saying that, as Brandon knows too, this task force, we've been on it. We did a Zoom call a couple months ago about it. And I've done talked to Steve for hours on this. So I'd like to be on the task force on that particular thing.
I can volunteer too.
But yes, he said we have to elect the and
Does he want-
John.
Does he
John
want,
also has to, we have to name the people and vote for them to be on the task force.
okay, so do they want 2 or does he want 3? Because I've got
Two.
2,
Two
okay,
people.
then let Lauren be on there.
But we have to vote.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I make a motion that Lauren Gonzalez.
But before we vote, I also have to give you a caveat. This is time sensitive since it's gonna be enacted in July 1st, 315, and I'm not here for 2 months. So, I mean, you have to factor that into your thinking. I mean, I will try to, if elected onto the task force, I will still make myself available while I'm in Mexico.
By Zoom or,
By Zoom or whatever means I can do it, but I can't give you 100% on it, that I can do it at
If
all.
you want to do it, Scott, I'm still gonna make a motion that Lauren
Yes.
Gonzalez and Scott Jacobson be on the subcommittee for the evaluation task force.
Yeah.
Task force for the evaluation of homelessness in parks.
Well, HB 3115,
Just a whole thing, okay.
let me, whatever Steven emailed me about.
House Bill one.
3115.
He said the PC HB 3115 task force. So it'd be the PC HB 3115 task force.
Yeah, that.
That one.
That one.
Got that?
Not the,
I didn't get it written down right, so I'm not gonna say it. So yeah, I nominate
PC.
Lauren Gonzalez and Scott Jacobson to be on that subcommittee.
And it was seconded? Okay, all those in favor?
I,
And Dana?
yes.
So we all approved of that task force.
Get to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to Mexico tomorrow.
Have fun on that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Actually, it
I've
does.
already done a bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, are there any other, do you have the action items summarized already? Or pretty much?
Why don't you go ahead and summarize for me?
Okay, we're gonna revisit the parks assignment.
Okay.
So I was gonna suggest a subcommittee for grants, but Jerry and I will be reporting on any grants we might find. Okay, for parks and trails.
And we were gonna, Dana and myself and you, we were gonna meet, and I'm not sure who else, I thought we were gonna meet.
Subcommittee of the urban trail.
To come up with, the things that we can do, inexpensively and maybe. Glad to be on that. Okay.
And like to, there was, you mentioned Friends of Parks and what we could put on the website or a new Facebook page. And so we're gonna kind of talk about that more and getting a list together. And
I have a couple more points.
okay,
Get changed.
tell it to.
Is that
No, these are different.
different? This is just
Okay,
discussion items,
okay,
got it.
okay, so we're done with that. So we're done with the summarized. The action items.
I just wanted to point out, there's a planning commission meeting tomorrow night, and they are in that particular meeting reviewing the architecture review of Columbia View Park. And I've asked Steve, since if there's anything that parks related in the planning commission, could he notify us prior to that and allow us to have somebody liaise or be present for anything that they're doing with the park on these things. So,
I plan on being in on that.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
going forward on everything, you know, that, not just this particular item, but anything, you know, that has to do with parks.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, and then another thing I just want to point out is that they've had I believe they voted for another land vacation the other day. These are, as Howard said, I believe he said it just earlier, and these are all part of our public spaces. And we're not involved in that whatsoever. And I mean, personally, just my,
I don't, start at the beginning on that. I didn't compute.
I'm sorry. I'm not very
Well, you know, sometimes I'm easily confused.
Yeah, I can confuse very easily myself. These vacations. you know,
Oh, okay.
Of properties that are actually right of ways, public spaces that we haven't got any input on. As I was saying, in my, you and I actually did the Keith Lock one.
Oh, yeah.
That particular thing, I mean, this is land, this is public land that this city owns. And my view personally is that we're just giving this land away and we're giving land away for nothing. These are, you know, could be just little microclimates that, you know, that could sustain birds, any type of, you know, small mammals, you know, these types of things, you know, open spaces that, you know, that actually make communities kind of thrive, having these spots. So I think, I mean, I just want to make us aware that these are going by the wayside. They've had, well, I think, I was there last week for the work session. They've done 24 vacations in the last 10, 15 years. So I think that was the correct number. But I mean, don't quote me on it, but it's something like that. So I mean, I'm just putting that out there, say that these are under our purview and we should be able to.
So,
They're gone, they're gone.
so, you know, I realize that every vacation is different. And, you know, I know you said there was 24, you know, some of them might be, you know, 2 feet or 6 feet along their side, but some of them we probably want to save. So are you saying, Scott, that the ones that are under our purview, that they should come,
They all are under our purview. 'Cause
so they should be,
Plan.
so should they be discussed here before they?
I think we should have should be able to be informed of it and advise on our feelings about these, each one of these.
Now, each month, don't we get a copy of the planning commission minutes or agenda? And I usually look through there and see those. I mean, sometimes they're minor ones where they're just, like my street at one point, they went from a 80-foot right of way down to a 55-foot right of way and gave each person 15 more feet from their
Yes.
house. That's just kind of for a private person, but then you get some of these where they're talking about they want to vacate a big chunk of the street so they can build a bigger project.
Yes, yeah, I mean,
And
Well, I mean,
those are the ones that are probably more worrisome to me sometimes.
when Jake was doing his thing the other day or giving his presentation, he was talking about right away and he was showed, you know, a plat of the city. You know, it's a grid fashion. I mean, it's something that they've been doing for 2,500 years at least. And there's bits and bobs within the city that there's, as he called them, canyons and wetlands is what 2 terms he called them. And, you know, so the right of way, there's still a right of way there, but it's not being utilized because it's a canyon. You can't use it or anything like that. So people who abut on some of these things, they're asking for it to be vacated. I don't think I think it's better use of for the public, for it to remain in public hands, and it'd be kind of like as I say, these are little open spaces, little micro environments for you know, the
Well,
flora and fauna around here.
and that's a dream, like the 5th Street right away that we've got it to Tualatin Street now. The dream would be is it would go all the way to Columbia Boulevard someday.
Yeah, that could be, you know, that right away could be part of that urban trail.
Yes, I've walked that.
Yeah, and I walked some of that with you.
Mhm.
So,
Just the trail in there would destroy some of the habitat though.
Yeah,
You just have to do it respectfully.
I don't know who those are required to go through by law or anything. They do go through the planning commission before they go to the city council. And there's also always a public hearing like there was Wednesday.
mhm.
And just like I would encourage all of you, if you're interested, if that's something you feel strongly about, you're welcome to go to the public hearing and voice your, whether you're in favor of it or you can represent. If you decide as a Parks Commission, you feel one way, you could go and say as a Parks Commission, this would be our, just like you did, just like
And if there's one of those coming up,
But we were informed by Robin Toski about that, you know, we were informed by the city. It was the person.
and I don't know whether there is other than, like Howard says, they do show up on the agendas every week, so show up as a street vacation.
Yes.
Cause am I the only one that, I mean, I get things like I get a copy of the, when the library board is gonna meet and what's on there. So it's very important for us all to, when we get one from the planning.
I think it should also
We
be,
should be looking at it.
but it should also come to us too, I think, as a commission to be able to advise on.
Can you make that recommendation to the planning committee and say, can you please advise us on vacancies like that? And then maybe they just by common practice, bring it to you. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
If you don't ask, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that segues into what I was mentioning before, is that, you know, anything that's happening with our parks, has the planning commission tell us about it, so we can have somebody to comment on it and have, you know, some weight into what their decisions are.
I mean, that, another perfect example of that is that they're, like we were saying, they're meeting to discuss Columbia View Park. But do we have anybody from the Parks Commission, since it's Columbia View Park, do you have anybody representing the Parks Commission at that?
That's what I was telling Steve, if we could tell us, and he's gonna look into that with the planning commission to be able to come back to us so we can have a representative there at least.
Mhm.
And we could do it by, you know, whatever works we've been assigned, or we could just do it by appointing somebody on these things. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Very interesting, Scott. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm gonna put one out there real quick. And that is when we have public comment, it says in here that we're supposed to be limited to about 3 minutes. Used to be 5. I think that if somebody has something that's really needs to drag on that much, that it should be deferred and then put onto the agenda for the next month to keep our public comment moving,
Yeah,
rather than spending over half an hour on public comment first thing today.
that's happened a couple times. Yeah.
That may just be something to think of, that, you know, it's great to hear from the public. I don't want to say no, but at some point it should become an agenda item and not a public comment.
If I could also, another thing that doesn't work for me is like on this particular meeting we had to get onto the agenda, it was 10 days prior to, just because of the, you know, holidays. But even a week prior, I mean, I kind of myself build up towards these meetings. I'm looking at it, you know, in 5 days prior to the meeting, or like today, you know, so I'm writing down all the stuff. So I'm building up to that, and I don't get a chance to put it on the agenda, so I have to put it on, you know, this other business aspect of it. So I'm wondering if there's any way to be able to add stuff, not just to add at the very end. I'm taking so much time right now with all this, just so, you know, but, you know, it's like a week in advance, I'll miss stuff. Be able to add it on to the agenda, if you know what I'm trying to express.
Well, and also if we had a line for discussion items, which,
Well, updates for each commissioner. That's
Right.
what I was thinking about. We could have an update. Sometimes you want to have anything, just have updates, but like with, you know, what I've been doing with the meetings, like I've taken, and Jenny, and I'm not even mentioning with the meeting, I just have with John. So,
I thought that's what other business was for.
Yeah, but you know, one thing I noticed about this, I'm gonna bring it up now since I won't be chair. Is, I used to work for the state of Oregon, and I've been president and chair in this, and you made up your own agenda. You had, all the people that were involved in this meeting, you know, send that to you so that you knew what was gonna be on the agenda and could, you know, now you almost have to talk to the person to see, well, what's that about? You know, so, because we're all setting them in separately. So if you have the chair getting all the agenda items from the people that are on the commission, then they can say, I would like to talk about this is the title because, you know, but that's the way it used to be. I mean, for everyone I've ever been to or I've organized. And such as a manager, you know, they get all the agenda items and then can ask questions. Also, I'd like to go back to putting times on all the agenda items, so we kind of get a feel for how much they might need. Some people will go over a little bit, but it would be good to have that back on the agenda as well. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out, that I think would make it a little bit easier on the chair to know what was actually coming up, you know, because you don't get it
The other one
until.
would be is that when you reply to put an agenda item or something on the agenda would be is to reply all
Right.
rather than just back to her. That way, everybody else would see that somebody's adding something to the agenda.
So we're all included, we kind of get an idea of what's gonna be happening.
I'll start when I send things in.
Everyone wants to go. One other thing too is, you know, we kind of had a precedent that we were gonna talk about, you know, a park every time.
Yes, we started that at the beginning of the year. And so I think it's a good idea to start that up again. So in other words, in December, I think, or January, it was January, I gave an update on Dalton. You know, and then the next month it was somebody else. And even if whether you had changes or not in the park, you know, you could say, I'm hoping to do this, or maybe in a couple months, you know, whatever. But some kind of update, so every one of us knows what's happening at the parks.
I think I covered that this time.
Yeah, that's why I wanted,
Let me review.
I'm glad that she,
Well,
that Jerry mentioned that, because we did start that.
So then do we want to put someone else on for next time? So it's formally gonna
Yes.
be there.
Would somebody like to volunteer? Okay, I'll volunteer. I'll do Dalton again.
All right.
You guys are not available.
February.
So I don't need that.
All right, with that, I'm gonna, if there's no other discussion, the meeting is adjourned.
sorry if I took so much.
No, it's interesting.